Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? What's going on? Welcome to episode 16 of Merchants of Novigrad, a bi-weekly podcast where we discuss everything went. Today with me, and for the first time on this show, my good friend Hesser. And as you guys can see, we have not one but two very fun and creative guests. TroVNut, representing Team Elderblood, and a longtime friend of mine, Weevil of Team Band the Gang. How are you guys doing? What's going on?
Great. Not too bad, yeah.
Before we get into it,
self-isolation.
Yeah, I think it's the problem for everyone right now. But before we get into it, a couple of words to our viewers. Guys, if you have any questions, you can ask them in chat. We'll try to pick the more interesting ones and we'll try to answer them as we go. If you'd like to stay in touch also off stream, you can follow us on Twitter at Novigrad Podcast, and if Spotify or YouTube are places where you would rather watch or listen to this episode, is going to be uploaded onto these platforms in a few hours after the live stream. So with that being said, I think we can move to the first segment of the podcast, which is what have been up to. And as you guys can imagine, Corona is going to be the number one topic here. So, still sane?
Kind of, yeah.
Relatively. Thankfully, I get to work from home, so it gives
I
me
can't.
something to do. Really?
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about it in a moment. But first, I wanna hear how you guys are doing in these difficult times. So let's start with Weevil. Because you were only talking about working from home. How are things, buddy?
Yeah. So I'm fortunate in that I picked up the position that I currently have right before the first cases were reported in China. So it's basically right after everything kicked off. But no more than 6 weeks after that, our company, which is an Indian company, announced a kind of a worldwide declaration for all of their offices that until something like, I think it's the middle of May, we basically all be working from home. But in a funny kind of way, I've been preparing for this hermit-like state, for the last 2 years by doing streams. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, because I actually get to focus on all kinds of like projects and I get to read more. I get to do all kinds of things I never had time to do. I only go out at night, which sounds a little creepy. But as a lot of my friends will tell you, I do tend to go for walks late at night anyway, because I just, it's more peaceful or whatever. But I have a routine. I'm sticking to it, and so far so good. It's going pretty well. Obviously, there is that kind of thing of just like not having people to hang out with, except like the people who are like literally right beside you. But like, but there's nothing we can do. And in a curious kind of way, we're all sharing the same burden, even though we're distant from each other. So there's kind of that feeling of solidarity or whatever. So yeah, so I'm doing good.
That's good to hear, because I'm pretty sure that not everyone can say that at the moment. But we'll talk about that in a bit. TroVNut.
Well, to me, the situation hasn't really changed all that much, because I've been working from home for 4 years now almost, as an iOS developer and a project manager, which I've been really grateful to our company that we can actually do that most of the time. A few years back, I also got the role of project manager, which caused me to move around a little bit towards customers and stuff like that. But it's really weird to see everybody around me changing their schedule and having to adjust to a new lifestyle, or complaining about being at home all the time, while I've been doing that for years now. It is, of course, a little bit different because I can't go to my friends anymore or stuff like that.
Wait, you have friends?
Yes, I do. And it's actually a little bit harder to work as well, because my neighbors are home constantly with their child screaming at the top of their lungs constantly. My fiance is well, luckily she works at luckily that's the wrong way to put it. She works at the hospital, so she also still works. So we're not constantly interrupting each other's work as well. But of course, she has then the downside of being in close contact with some of the corona patients sometimes. So we do check our temperature every day, just to make sure that nothing happened in the hospital. But other than that, it's basically schedule as normal. I even have a little less time than usual to make content, just because of the extra work and the fact that I just have more contact with my fiance right now. We spend more time together. But other than that, we're doing fine.
Yeah, I was actually wondering because you said your fiance is working in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Are you constantly thinking about the possibility of getting corona through her? Because she's in a certain environment that's more exposed than others.
Yeah, it's especially because she's always in close contact with patients that have respiratory problems in general. So that's already the risk group that she's in contact with. But after we've been in quarantine for 4 weeks, 5 weeks now, you kind of forget about it and just make sure you always wash your hands and stuff like that. But we don't really change our interaction between the two of us, just because of that. Because I mean, if it happens, it's gonna happen. It's your partner, so you can't really. You sleep together, you work together, you dinner together. It's just
so there's no way around it.
No, I mean that would be trying to fight against the ocean basically, and we just forget about it and try to limit our contact, of course, with our neighbors and stuff like that. But between each other, no.
Yeah, and she exactly knows what to do, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, as well. She's probably one of the better informed people around here. So
yeah.
And
And Hesser, do you know what to do?
Well, I'm trying to know what to do, but actually, the recent few weeks were kind of hard. I obviously moved some of the business online, but it was difficult. A lot of people. I'm running actually my own business, my own business, and I'm teaching languages and translating. And some of the translating part was actually easy to move online, right? But teaching languages, most of the people were like the stationary students, so that was more difficult. And some of them wanted to continue online, but some of them didn't. Obviously, they didn't have the possibilities, like equipment wise, or they just don't like it. So yeah, that was kind of difficult. But well, I'm managing, still alive.
Well, we can see that you are still alive, and that's a good thing because sometimes I had this idea. He's not replying to my messages. I hope he's all right. But yeah, speaking of the corona situation, I work in supply chain, so I have to still physically show up at the facility. And right now, 2 of my colleagues have been diagnosed with corona, so by default I'm part of the risk group because I've been in contact with people who are now confirmed cases. But this is basically the same as in your case, TroVNut. We know that it happened. We know what the risks are, but we have to do our work anyway. We just go on about our lives hoping that we are not gonna get it, and that if we get it, we are gonna get proper help. Yeah. But sometimes in the back of your head you think, well, when it started, there was like no notion of anyone having it, and then a couple of weeks later, first person in the company got it, and then second person company got it. Even though when I started working there, and that was basically the first week of the outbreak in Italy, and my boss got back from Italy, from northern Italy, in that week. So I would say that was the moment of panic, because people started to read about coronavirus, about the outbreak in Europe. And when the boss got back, everyone was like, "Oh my god, have you been tested? Are you okay? How are you feeling?" And then for weeks nothing really happened. And I know for a fact that the first colleague who got it actually got it somewhere else, because he stopped working because he was so afraid of getting infected at the workplace. He decided to do some work from home, and for the rest part just take a leave. And he got it somewhere else. He got, a few weeks later, after he was self-quarantined, he got coronavirus. So I would say nobody's really panicking at the moment. The moment of panic was somewhere in March, but we think about it. And some of my colleagues are like somehow managed to cope with it, with the fact that we know people who have it, and others are clearly in a panic mode. They keep talking about that. They keep talking about potential consequences, or their underlying health issues, and about how difficult it would be to be at home and stay with their partner and children, and what are the risks of getting them infected. So you really need to choose the people you are working with on a particular day, because you don't want to hear about it. I would say,
being constantly reminded.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my next door neighbor was diagnosed with coronavirus, and I'm still okay. So I've only left my house, as I say, at nighttime after 10:30 at night for the last 3.5 weeks. So thankfully I'm okay.
You've been doing that for a long time, and I was always eager to ask why. Why not during the day? Because you always, I remember you always went on your walks, during the evening or at night after the stream.
Yep. It's pretty much because I like the peace and quiet, and there's just something about, I don't know, there's just something about the nighttime that I really like. Like, nobody's around, and it allows me to kind of allow my thoughts to settle, and actually, I feel like I need to be out for at least an hour to properly quiet my mind. So no matter what I was doing before, if I go out for a certain, it's like you actually detach from yourself, because there's a part of yourself that's attached to your home and where you live and all of the worries and everything else that goes with it. But when you're far enough away from it, you're able to properly detach from it. I don't know. The daytime is nice too, but there's a specific reason why I tend not to go out during the day, which is because I had this surgery on my head when I was a baby, and part of my skull is slightly thinner, so I'm not supposed to get a huge amounts of sun on my head, basically. So I try to avoid, because if I go out for too long in the sun, I get like this really bad headache on my right side, and sometimes I like throw up and stuff. So like it's not nice. So that's why the night is much cooler and more pleasant and everything. So I tend to just, I'm not a vampire or whatever, but I do tend to avoid the sun. So that's actually the best answer I can give. So there you go.
But yeah, I think overall it's a good idea to do that. I prefer either early morning when nobody's around, like other than people who start working at 7 a.m. and they need to walk their dogs beforehand, or late at night, simply because it's cooler. It's like during the winter it doesn't really matter, because you can go out at 4 p.m. and it's gonna be quite cold and dark anyway. But during the spring or the summer you have to do it late.
Yeah,
there is no pleasure in walking when there is 30 degrees outside.
Some people love that.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Like, my best friend is Brazilian, and it's like it recharges him. It just feels like alive when he goes out in that 30-degree sun. I'm just like, get that away from me.
Yeah, one of my colleagues is originally from Suriname. It's a country in South America, and last couple of days it's been fairly warm, like around 20 degrees. So everyone's walking around in t-shirts, and he's wearing a jacket. Like, he's like, it's cold, guys. It's crazy. And everyone is saying, like, the moment he's walking around in t-shirt, like, we need to take pictures. We need to put it somewhere for next generations to remember, because that hasn't happened yet, and he's been working there for at least like 4 or 5 years. It's never warm enough for this guy.
And I went running yesterday, and it's 20 degrees is already way too hot if you go running.
Yeah.
I need to do that in the evening as well.
Yeah. There's a lot more joggers too. I noticed that there's people jogging at 11:30 at night.
I can tell you this: sporting equipment of all kinds sells like crazy right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that for a fact, because one of our customers is manufacturing that. And it comes down one day, and all of it, like the whole shipment goes out the other day.
Yeah,
because people just keep buying it because they have nothing else to do. And somebody in chat, I think it was Brother, said that he's not allowed to go outside. We are allowed to do that. You're allowed to go outside if it's a group of 2 or less. Like 3 or more, you are gonna get fined. 2 or less, that's fine.
But sure, Jess was telling me that in South Africa, like, it's really strict over there. Like, if you're caught going outside at all, like, it's not even 2 people or whatever. Like, they literally don't let you go outside, and if they catch you, you get fined
Yeah, it's
for
the
anything,
same
really.
in Italy. I have a good friend in Italy, and he said that whenever he goes outside, whether it's work or essential shopping or anything really, they have a form that they have to fill out, and they have to have it at hand at all times because when a patrol stops them, they have to give them a proper reason and some paperwork, because otherwise they're gonna get fined and they're gonna be escorted home.
And they're pretty hefty fines as well. There's
Yeah, it's
I don't know. It differs depending on the country. I think over here it's 250 if you get fined.
390 here.
Oh wow!
Whoa.
We love our fines.
Yeah.
I think we can get fined here, but I don't think it's that much. It might be €150 or something. Slap on the wrist, like.
Yeah, fines are absolutely crazy here, and I remember always talking about traffic violations. Yeah. Because a lot of people, when they're in Germany, they get a little bit carried over. They get a little bit too happy, so they cross the border and they still go at the same speed. And I remember hearing about the case where somebody was traveling at a certain speed, which was also beyond the limit in Germany, and he got fined €15 there. And then he crossed the border at the same speed, and he got fined close to €200 here. So when it comes to fines, you don't want to get fined in the Netherlands. Like, they are always hefty. But anyway, we've been talking a lot about Corona, and I think it's time up to talk about Gwent.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if that's a more pleasant topic right now, because during a meta like this, I think a lot of us feel somewhat disappointed because you have all this time in the world to play Gwent, and all you see is that one deck. So what I'm gonna ask is not really concerning Gwent, because I would like to ask, during a meta like this, are you guys playing other games too?
Regularly. We talked about this before as well, that I was originally a console player for Gwent, but since that version went away, I'm playing on mobile exclusively now. So if I want to play something sitting still in this setup, it's usually on my PlayStation, on my console, and then I play other things. I've been playing XCOM in a challenge run that I'm doing on the YouTube channel. Some Resident Evil as well with the remakes. They're really, really good. And just some nostalgia games as well. Just basically working on my backlog, because that's been piling up lately. That's basically that.
Okay, and the Weevil, because there was a question coming up about you and your Gwent adventure over the years, but I know you've been playing other games too. Like I saw you streaming Final Fantasies. Like, don't get me like, please forgive me if I get the number wrong. Is it 7?
FF7 remake, yeah. I was looking forward to that game for a long time, and it actually got released on my birthday, which was like a week ago, which was really nice. I've been streaming it, but I think that I feel like single player games aren't as fun for me to stream, because the experience is identical for everyone who streams it. Like, you play through the game, there's no modularity in that game, it's completely linear. Mm-hmm. So like, everyone is going to discover the same things, basically. So like, I enjoy it because it's my first time playing through the game. But if someone else came in, like Lionheart or something, and he goes, oh yeah, he's already done, I've already done this part, kind of thing. Like, so there's certain experiences that are taken away. Like, whereas Gwent is different because it's like every game is a little different, and unless it's hidden cache 10 times in a row. But yeah, like pretty much FF7 remake is fun for me to stream on occasion, but I like Gwent because of the variety. So that's what I try to focus on. I don't really have a backlog of games per se. Like, I'm not really that kind of person. Like, I'll play a game, like a new game, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Like I follow any of the Souls like games. So like Sekiro was the last one. So if any of those come out, I'll just buy that and play it. But other than that, like my tastes have gotten more and more narrow as time has gone on. Like, I used to play like a lot of real-time strategy games, like Total War and stuff. I'm also really into Super Smash Brothers, by the way. I play that all the time.
Yeah, I've seen you playing that, and that other game that's kind of fun to watch. Oh, God, I forgot the name. Oh, my head.
Is it Jackbox thing?
No, not Jackbox.
I do play Jackbox as well.
It's like one of those old school games when you move from left to right.
I don't know.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of them. We are gonna get back to this when I remember the name. So
the point that we
I think there was a procedural one I played a while ago. What was it called? It was where the levels were generated randomly every time. Dead Cells, yeah.
Dead Cells, yeah.
They just, yeah, it was about a year and a half ago. Yeah, that's a pretty good game, but I couldn't get past the final. There was like four different kind of stages or whatever, and the final stage had three. It had three, but you get one of three bosses at the very end. One of them is like ridiculously difficult. One of them is like reasonable, and the other one is like pretty difficult as well. And every time I made it to the top of the tower, I always got the really, really hard boss, and I was just like, come on, it took me like 2 hours to get here.
Yeah, I think you also
And
used to
then if
play Slay the Spire, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, and there's actually another card game. Somebody was telling me about it in my chat there the other day. There's another card game that's similar to Slay the Spire, in that it's sort of like you progress, and there's different like procedural elements and stuff, and you build your deck up over time, etc., etc. I can't remember the name of it, but it looks really like Slay the Spire, and almost like it's taken all the good bits and sort of refined it and everything else. So those types of games are fun too, and that's something that's really nice to stream because it's like there are those random elements, and no two runs are ever like the same. So yeah, but Gwent is my bread and butter, as we say. So that's what I.
How about you, Hester? Because last couple of days I saw you stream for the first time in a while, and it was enjoyable.
Well, I, on the other hand, I'm enjoying pretty much the other single-player games right now, and I'm playing a lot of the games from my backlog. I have a huge backlog, unfortunately, and I remember like starting BioShock back in the days when it got released, and finally now I have some time to finish all of the games. So now I'm playing BioShock, the second part, and I'm just waiting for the Infinite because I've heard that it's pretty ridiculously good. So I want to play it.
And the DLCs.
And I also have some games on Switch. So basically, I'm just laying around here in the flat and playing some Switch as well. Also some Super Smash Bros. So yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah, but so I just decided, to just move back from the multiplayer games. They got me a bit frustrated recently, so that's mainly the reason.
The tilt, I understand.
Oh yeah,
the tilt is real.
That's why I stopped playing Overwatch. I used to, I put thousands of hours into that game, and then there was a point where I was in like kind of mid diamond kind of tier or whatever, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. People were just like, "Where are my heals? Where are my heals?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm trying."
Yeah,
that was our go-to game. We have Thursday evening. We always do game night with friends. And Overwatch was our go-to game for over a year, and then at a certain point you just burn out because everybody's just complaining about the same things.
Yeah.
And you move on.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I used to play some League of Legends with my friends as well, and that, you can imagine, ended up badly.
I think I've seen your Discord saying you were playing League of Legends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually disabled the option that allows people to see what you're playing. Because I don't want people to see that I play like hundreds of hours of PoE. But I always
what's that one? Path of Exile.
Path of Exile. Huge fan of it over the years, and the hours keep adding up. I think I'm at like 5,300 right now. It's insane, and they keep releasing new expansion every 3 months, so there's always a reason to go back. But recently I've been also playing other games. I got back to City Skylines for the first time in almost a year. Not streaming it, not doing any kind of content creation, just playing for myself whenever I have some free time. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's just much healthier for me to play it on my own and have fun rather than create content the way I used to do. And there is a card game that I haven't installed it yet. I'm gonna do that today. and I talked to you guys about it, and it's called Cards with a K, very original. But because it's World War II themed, it really caught my attention. It released a couple of days ago, and I actually asked Hesser, because I know he's been playing it, if he would like to do a co-op of cards. Right? I did ask it, I think.
Yeah.
or did I get it wrong?
That pause though.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
gotta do that. I actually started, and I chose obviously my favorite faction, the Soviets, and you can feel that they were trying, to give like some sort of specific feeling about every faction, about every nation, because you have a few nations there. And I just wonder what are the other specific like nation-specific treats, right? But so far so good. I've been really enjoying it, so we definitely
So
gotta
how
check
does
out.
it? What would it compare to? Like, what's the closest card game? Like, does it have a pass mechanic, for example, or is it kind
Nope,
of?
it doesn't have the pass. I would say that it's pretty much similar to Hearthstone again, because you still have some sort
Okay.
of mana, right?
Uh,
And but there's an interesting mechanic called the front line, right? So you gotta occupy the front line. You take the front line, and then you can only attack, for example, your opponent's base or your opponent's units, right?
Yeah, but I think
Ah.
only certain types of units require you to have the front line. I think cavalry and
Yeah.
infantry require you to have the front line, whereas Air Force doesn't, and obviously there are other units that don't really require you to have it. But I kind of feel on the fence about that game, because on one hand, I love the design of German cards, but on the other, playing Germany, it might rub some people the wrong way. So
I played Command and Conquer back in the day, and I didn't mind picking Soviets, like, or whatever, or whatever. Like, there was nothing political in like.
I think Soviets still kind of get accepted, but the Germans, it's gonna be a difficult one.
Sunshine.
It's gonna be difficult. But yeah, I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I told you guys I haven't installed it. I watched a couple of streams, and I'm really getting ready to play it, and especially now that Hesser told me that he installed it and played it, and he thinks it's cool. So I thought, yeah, let's give it a try. So I'm gonna do it today after the podcast. But this podcast is about Gwent, and I think there's a lot of topics related to Gwent that we need to explore here.
What's that?
Yeah, Gwent was
40 minutes in.
40 minutes in.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's talk about Gwent, right? And the first topic is obviously gonna be the journey. Guys, if you want to hear about the hidden cache, we're gonna talk about it as well. But I want to open with the journey because it's been a couple of weeks. Like, in the early stages, you had two camps basically. You had people who were very happy about the journey, about the whole system and how it worked, and you had people who also had some criticism. So we are a few weeks in. We had Jason Slama explain the math behind the reward changes and the progression. So how do you perceive Journey right now?
I mean, to me, I've been in both camps during the past few weeks. It's a really well-designed system that gives you a real sense of progression if you're new to the game. It's something that incentivizes you to keep playing aside from just collecting the cards, which was always a problem in base Gwent, I think. At a certain point, if you have all the cards, there's not really a big incentive to keep playing, aside, of course, gameplay. That's always great. But it's a great new way to incentivize the more casual players, I think, to keep playing and start earning those ornaments, even if you're just playing on the free path. But then on the other side, of course, you have the players that max out their rewards each day and are now kind of being shafted just a little bit, especially in the early weeks of Journey. Because there was a huge difference between what you could earn in the old Daily Crown system and right now in Journey. And the main reason for that was the weekly cap, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how deep we want to go into the numbers, but basically, the original cap was 100, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct.
Which basically meant that with the well-rested crown points you got, so that was 14 each day, multiply that by 7, you get 98. So if you played your well-rested rounds every day, you were already at the weekly cap. So if you did anything over than that.
But the well-rested crowns did not count towards the cap.
No, but if you just
Okay.
play those 14 rounds that are multiplied, then indeed, just those 14 rounds to get your well-rested crowns, then even on your base crown points, you would reach the limit by the end of the week.
Yeah, I think to put it into perspective, that the first week of Journey I played somewhat casually, and by Monday I got capped out.
Yeah. And that's 3 days, because it refreshes on Thursday, I think. Yeah. So that's 3 days before it actually refreshed. Now it's been upped to 350. I can imagine that there are still hardcore players that are still reaching that cap. But I think it was Habla last time talked about that he was really frustrated because he reached the original cap after 5 hours. I heard him say in the previous podcast. So then I can definitely understand the frustration. But the way Slama explained it in his post is that Journey was mainly focused towards new and casual players, which I think I should verify the numbers, but I think it was about 88% of players only got 2 reward points or less on an average day, which then makes sense that you want to make that easier for those 88%.
That's quite a statistic if you think about it. Like it wasn't what I thought, honestly. Like, because like a lot of the competitive level players are trying to say like, oh, we're the ones who should push the decision making. But I have always made the argument in my streams or otherwise that the casual players basically own not just this game but any game, any card game. Like that is what the competitive players have a very specialized knowledge of the game and a very specific set of requests, to have like high level tournaments and this everything else. But it's the casual players who actually keep the game afloat, and it takes. Sometimes it's difficult for the competitive players to admit that because they believe that, oh, if I've invested this many thousand hours into the game, I expect these results, and I expect people to kind of fall in line and listen to what we want or whatever. But those numbers were staggering to me when I saw them, and like 88% or whatever. It's like, wow.
The other side is even worse. I think it was 0.6% of players got those 6 reward points each day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but you also have to remember that Gwent is a free-to-play game, so on a daily basis you have new players basically giving it a go for 1 or 2 games and then quitting. Of course, we don't have the numbers regarding Gwent. So once again, I have to use an example from another game, and that's obviously going to be PoE, which is also free to play. And I remember the lead developer saying something like, the vast majority, 60-something% of all players never get it past the first area, which takes about 3-4 minutes of playtime. So the odds are that, okay, we have 88% of players getting 2 or less reward points on a daily basis, but how many of those players are actually there for the first time?
According to Jason's posts, I think he mentioned specifically that they took statistics from a period of time that wasn't during the release date of the iOS version or the Android, so a more general week to get a better average. And they're also talking about active players, so not entirely. That probably does include new players on an average basis, but since it's averaged out, I feel like it's probably going to be pretty correct. And even without those new players, it's still going to be. I mean, we're talking about 88%. It's still going to be 60%.
That's almost everyone.
And they just wanted to have a system that allows you to still get those 2 reward points, but with less of a time sink. Because for casual players, getting to those 6 rounds you originally need, if you lose a few matches, then that can quickly add up to an hour of play. To just get those 2 reward points, if you want to do that every day, that's quite a time sink if you're just a casual player.
Yeah.
Now with Journey, I think just mainly because of the quests, because those give you basically 1 level for free. If you complete one of the quests, you get those 2 reward points in around half an hour on average, which is the biggest difference I think they wanted to achieve.
Yeah, and you get 3 quests on the free path and 6 quests on the paid one.
Yeah. Now, the other problem, I think, and I think you might agree with that, is that they made it way too complicated.
Yeah. It was very complicated for me, but I think it's the topic that we are going to discuss in the next question.
Okay.
Yeah, so moving up to the next question, we were thinking, what are your thoughts about the whole duration, the number of levels and the rewards in the path? And what do you think are the players like thinking that it's too much of a commitment? Like, it's obviously like in every other battle pass that the coolest rewards are in the end of the path, but it really takes some time to get there, right? So it might be just too much of a commitment for the players. Maybe we have too many levels in this battle pass. What do you think about it?
I think it's spread out over 3 months, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
90
So
days,
that-
I think.
But I felt like the timer was already at 85 days started. That was a really weird thing. But even aside from that, 90 days should be. I think it's just enough, but it does require a commitment. But again, it depends on if you want to make that commitment. If you're just a casual player, you look at it, okay, as extra rewards you get along the way. I don't think every casual player wants to reach that level 100. Even though there are some really cool cosmetics in those last 10 levels. But even the first few cosmetics, there are a few very nice avatars and card backs in those earlier levels. But I think we can't forget that it's about 3 months that you have the time for it. I think Slama also mentioned in his post that it's only in week 7 that you're physically no longer able to finish the journey completely. Somewhere around that point.
I think for the free path, it's no longer possible after the first month of the journey.
Yeah, for the free path, yeah.
And for the paid path, after 7 weeks,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's like that.
I think
the biggest
Yeah, go on.
the biggest complexity, I think, which is still really unclear, is that you can complete the quests in Geralt's string of quests, even if you don't have the premium, but you don't get the 20 crown points for completing it. And if you then buy the premium pass afterwards, you get those crown points you should have gotten immediately. So it's weird because you can complete those quests, but you don't get the reward for those quests. So it's just a few bars that are filling up with no effect. And
Yeah,
that
that's
adds to
kinda confusing.
the confusion for newer players, because that's basically one of the most often asked questions on the video I made on Journey as well.
Yeah. I mean, the only point I'm sort of known as a person who doesn't pay a huge amount of attention to cosmetics and stuff, but the only thing I saw with the journey that immediately like raised a flag for me was the fast travel thing. And I know it's because of mobile release, but we were even talking yesterday about how the price is different on mobile. It's higher on mobile than it is on PC for the same amount of fast travel. And like, yeah, that if you have just enough time to finish the journey in the 3-month period, like just enough time if you play optimally and you do all your quests efficiently and everything else, there's going to be a majority of players, I would say, who, as you say, who play for a minimal amount of time and will be incentivized, just like, oh, well, if you want this really nice shiny thing, then you need to pay for it or whatever. Like, I think they could have been less greedy with it and made a shorter, more kind of streamlined journey thing that did not include a fast travel system. But that's just my opinion. I'm kind of against the whole notion of microtransactions to begin with, so I guess it's sort of it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I don't know, but
yeah, when I look
Makes
at
a
the
lot of sense.
system as a whole, I think it was designed specifically to incentivize people to play more. Because it's 3 months, as you guys already said. The best rewards are saved for the last stretch. So when I'm playing Gwent, and despite not streaming, I've been playing a fair share of it in the recent weeks, I always feel guilty if I'm not playing enough, because I feel like even though I have the premium path, I'm not gonna get there. So it kind of motivates me to play more and make sure I get I made use of all the well-rested crowns every day. And then we have fast travel that we will talk about, and it kind of feels like, okay, so if I skip a week because of any reason, it kind of feels like I have to fast travel to make up for that loss.
I don't think you'll need to. It depends on how many.
Yeah, of course, like if you run the math, you feel like, okay, you can skip
Yeah.
a couple of weeks here and there. But you know, it's
And
I think it's a psychological effect. Like, I'm missing on rewards. I need to fast travel to catch up.
I think it's also the psychological effect because it takes 3 months and it's hard to guess where you'll end up after 3 months in 100 levels. Which also makes, if you look at the fast travel options, because pricing has also always been really interesting in Gwent. Let's use the word interesting. But the fast travel option is really, it's €1 per level on average.
Yeah, it's 5 levels and it's like 450 on PC, and it's close to €6 on mobile.
And I don't know if you noticed, but if you look at the later tiers, they ramp up in price as well.
No, that's because the later tiers also include the previous ones.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the difference between level 1 and 10, the difference is a lot smaller between 1 and 10 and between 90 and 100. So I think it's €20 to go. The difference between the price for level 90 is €20 on top of that to go to level 100. And I think it might be that that's only on mobile. I can check on the PC version. Because the problem, just to give you a little bit of a background on that, is definitely on iOS. I'm not entirely sure on Android. You can't choose the price specifically on your microtransactions. You're forced to choose between different price tiers, and the higher your price goes, the less of a difference you have between those price tiers. So I think they just couldn't select. Like for example, €90, so they just went to 100 euros immediately because they're stuck to those price tiers that you have available on the developer console.
Yeah, it's possible, but I really like the argument that you made that it's 3 months, and because of that, it's really difficult for us to imagine how it will play out. Because, for example, Hesser, what were you doing 3 months ago? Do you even remember?
Not really.
Yeah, so how do you imagine completing the journey in 3 months? Like, are you guys trying to do the math in your head? Like, how much do I need to play a day or a week to make it?
I constantly do that. But that's just me. I like numbers. But
like I'm literally just trying to farm with Northern Realms right now. Like I'm not thinking about playing 15 bounties or whatever like that. If it actually happens to occur, then that's fine. Plus you can go back on previous weeks and finish the quests, which is nice because plus I bought the premium pass as well, and I'm just like kind of wasting it, but
you're basically forced to use unless that changed, first complete the quest from week 2. If you haven't done that yet, you need to complete those first before you can start on the ones from week 3, unless that changed from the original implementation.
So
that
you
might
were
be true, yeah.
So you are still stuck with the aristocrat quests.
Yeah.
Hesser, what about you? Do you have the premium pass? But actually, question for all of you: what level are you right now when it comes to the journey?
Well, I think I'm around level 38, and yeah, I got the premium pass, but yeah, I'm also like kind of wasting it right now. I'm trying to do some quests, but
I have no
still.
idea where I am. 20. I think I'm like 20s, I 29 or 30. I honestly haven't checked in a while, but yeah. I just wanted the Bandit Geralt thing. That's all I wanted for Bandit Gang, Team Bandit Gang. You know, so I had the little bandana. That's all I wanted. So
Makes
I'm happy.
sense.
Yeah, he made an official announcement at Bandit Pig in the Discord. He was like, "Everybody, everyone needs to unlock the Bandit mask thing for coronavirus awareness and for Team Bandit Gang awareness." You know,
I'm at 22 right now. Also with the premium pass, but both of your levels are way more than enough to get to the end easily. Because right now, I think after 2 weeks, you should be around level 18 too, if you want to use the same rhythm every week. If you're now level 18 and you continue on the same trajectory, you should make it without a problem. But that then does include, of course, the quests that are turning out to be more and more specific towards specific cards that not all casual players might have.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that they are just, trying to push and give some incentive to the players to try out some new decks, but for some of them it's impossible to use it, right? Or they just don't like it. So
Yeah. And the cool thing on the other side is that the quests are actually tied to the story underneath.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
along with the story as well, like for example, the quest with the bounties happens at the same time that Geralt brings in a piece of a monster to somebody to retrieve a bounty. So it's cool that they match, and that's because I think yesterday we were talking about maybe they could re-roll the quest, but I think for that reason alone they won't. And of
Yeah.
course to push them towards making everybody play different decks and factions.
Yeah, like that was the point on the fact that Syndicate doesn't have a starter deck, and one of the questions is a week 2 specifically relates to bounties. And like the only suggestion I'd have is pick any Syndicate leader, put in 2 Slanders and a Graydon or whatever, or play wildcard. Pick craft 2 Slanders and a Graydon, and then just put in all neutral cards. So you don't need to play any of the Syndicate cards.
Yeah, I would like to
Yeah.
cycle back a few minutes because Hesser, you said you are level 38.
I think so, yeah. But I got a boost. I bought I think, I don't know which level can you buy, but I think I bought it, with additional money.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to say
Shame.
that the journey has been around for a couple of weeks, and every single day I've been playing, enough rounds to use all my crowns, and sometimes I would add something on top. And I'm also level 38, and of course premium path. So I thought that's quite a commitment. It's not very casual, but then again, for me it's much easier because we have the seasonal mode, and whenever I queue against someone who's not Nilfgaard, I'm like, wrong neighborhood, motherfucker. It's all about spice assimilate.
Like level 80 something.
Yeah, but Gulo clearly bought it. Like there is no because he was level 80 on the first 2 days.
Yeah, he's just crazy.
But it's okay. Like some people are committed to a game like this, and they are just waiting for the opportunity to spend that money. Because if you look at the microtransactions that were available in the shop, quite often they were underwhelming. Like you have the money, you want to spend it on Gwen, but there's nothing you would like to buy, and now you have the journey. And it for whales, it feels like okay, this is the right time to spend that money that I saved for Gwent.
I mean, value-wise, it's a really good deal. The premium pass itself, I should specify, the premium pass itself is $10, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Which gives you around 50 ornaments, and I think every type of ornament that's in there costs around $8 or $9 on the store if you want to buy one of those separately. Like, for example, the card backs, there's 4 card backs in there. And if you want to buy one of the Triss, Shani, or Yennefer card backs, I think it's $8 to buy one of those, which is...
Yeah. And the Ophiri princess thing is like...
Oh, no, don't even... We will, with all due respect, don't even mention that microtransaction. It's disgusting.
But to counter that, so the cost of the premium pass is a lot better priced than it was for the single microtransactions, the single cosmetics, because those are just... I've had multiple discussions on the YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel about this, but you should see those basically like the fast travel options as well as ways to donate money to CDPR, because you're not getting all that much in return.
Yeah.
Feed Verza. Hashtag feed
Basically.
Verza.
Yeah, basically.
The campaign.
Yeah,
fast travel, because fast travel is just a way to save time. And that's always a bit of a weird concept. Like they made the problem and they give you a way to buy the solution for the problem.
Isn't that marketing 101?
Yeah, of course. Of course, that is. And there's a lot more games that do that aren't free to play to start with. So I don't mind that in a free to play game. It's basically the business model. So,
yeah, in a lot of games that only say microtransactions, you will see that, the free options of what your character or your cards are not very attractive. So the game is made, let's say, ugly only to some microtransactions to make it look better for you. That's how it works in a lot of games.
You get so much for free in Gwent, which
is
the reason why I don't mind the business model, but it is, of course, you need to realize that even for the fast travel options, you're just paying to save time, which you might not even need to save. Because even you're a good example for that, Weisenberg. Because you said you're level 38 right now.
Yeah.
So that's over after a little over 2 weeks. And you still have 2 months and a half left in the season pass, and you're almost at half of the levels. So, and you say, of course, it's a commitment, but even if you roll back that commitment by half, you still make it to the end without a problem.
Yeah, but one thing I want to talk about, and then we've already mentioned it, is the accessibility of quests, right? Because you said, okay, they link to the actual story that's being told as part of the journey. But sometimes I have this feeling that a lot of cards are just not accessible for everyone. So let's say you are a new player, right? It's week 2. You have to play aristocrats. Not a single aristocrat is in the starter deck.
Nope.
And then you have bounty, and there is no syndicate starter deck.
No, I think syndicate is more of a problem because aristocrats you can get the hunter, and he's useful in a lot of decks just because of the bleeding or locking option you can. And that counts already towards the aristocrats without having to build a complete status deck. But indeed, syndicate is a lot more of a problem, I think, if you just start the game, because it's the biggest problem is that it's a quest in week 2, which basically blocks your progress in the quest if you don't do that.
Neutrals and slander, I'm telling you.
Yeah, neutrals, slander, and bounty hunters.
Yep, that's it. You'll knock off that quest in an hour and a half tops if you just craft 2 slanders and just make it on.
My advice would be just add any kind of bounty card to your deck that you have currently in your collection, and play a game of seasonal. Like you play one witch hunter, and it's gonna pull another one. So you get 2 cards per turn. That's and true. you can do it in some of these quests you can effectively do in one game.
Yeah, seasonal right now is really good to grind a lot of stuff like contracts and quests.
You can also farm noobs in seasonal for your well-listed crowns.
Yeah, it is useful for a lot of those types of things, but Gula was trying to do that actually with some really obscure achievements. What was it to do with? Was it to do with purifying? Yeah, so it was to do with purifying units, and he noticed that certain purifies weren't being tracked. So, like, if you purify a doomed unit, apparently it doesn't track a purify. Whereas if you purify a lock or a poison or whatever, also if you purify vitality, it also doesn't work. Only if you purify your own bleed. So it's kind of like there's this bias between purifying an opponent's unit and purifying your own. It only counts certain ones. So he was just like, what the hell? And he tracked every single one during the game because he designed a deck specifically, syndicate deck specifically to purify. So he would play all of his Firesworn Zealot things, and he would just like purify them all, and like none of them would count.
Actually, there's the same happening in Skellige with the Ravens. Tried to do a similar setup and they didn't count indeed.
Actually, there's a problem with the quest this week because it says win 3 games without destroying any of your enemy's units. Yeah. And the problem is that if your opponent happens to play monsters, they are going to consume their units, and apparently it ruins your quest.
And as far as I've seen, it's bugged, that one. Because I've seen people saying that they get progress towards that quest if they do destroy units, and they don't get progress if they don't destroy units.
I'm not sure if it works because I'm only playing my Spy Assimilate deck, and what I've been doing is I have the Handgate sword in my deck, and I've been constantly killing that Roderick. That Roderick is getting slammed all the time, and it still allowed me to complete the quest. So technically, like if you play a spine unit, it counts as your opponent's unit by that point. And even if you destroy it, it still is fine with the quest. It doesn't ruin it. Which is something I was worried about because I really didn't want to remove that sword because the combos you get in Assimilate with the sword are completely crazy. It's like Roderick into sword, into Roderick into sword, into Roderick into sword, into Cantarella, into your opponent's Cantarella. It's completely crazy. Like I was telling Hesser, sometimes you are able to put 5 units on your opponent's side of the board in one turn.
Sounds like fun.
For me it is. I'm pretty sure that for my opponent it isn't. But as you can judge by the display in my room, I'm not the kind of person who cares about other people's fun.
Yeah. I mean, I just have the basic characters in my back. You have a freaking.
I was
background.
Honestly, for a very long time, I did not want to display it because I always felt like, what if I stop playing Gwent? All these cards don't feel, let's say, artsy enough for non-Gwent fans to understand them or to even like inspire some sort of thinking. I think that Color has that artsy element. So that people are gonna stop by and be like, I'm wondering what is the idea behind this art. Moving on.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, Hesser.
Yes. So, speaking of the battle passes, obviously that idea wasn't like, they didn't come up with that idea, the CDPR, I mean. And there are some other battle passes in other games. And do you have like any experience with the battle passes from other games, and what kind of features would you like to see implemented?
I think the one I've been in contact with the most recently was the one in Apex Legends. But again, I don't really play Apex Legends enough to really care about it. So it's something that happens in the background and I don't really look at it. But I think the one in Gwent is basically the first one I actually paid money for. Otherwise, I just go with the free tier, like in Rainbow Six right now as well. And that also, it does give you a good idea that the free tier in Gwent is a lot more generous than what you get in other games.
Yeah,
because
that's
in
true.
most other season passes, you have levels where you get nothing for the free tier, and that doesn't happen in Gwent.
Yeah, Gwent has been always very generous. Go on, Hesser. Sorry, I interrupted.
I've been recently playing some Call of Duty Warzone, this battle royale, and also they have the free tier, right? And there you get you skip I don't know, maybe 10 tiers before you get something. So it basically gives you nothing, right? You really need to commit a lot if you want to get at least something, right? It's not the case of Gwent.
Yeah.
I didn't really have much experience with it except for I mean, the closest I would have gotten to, maybe it's a relatively concept, but for me it was just season passes for DLC and things like this in games like Smash Bros, for example. Fighter Pass they call it. Yeah,
I don't really have any experience with battle passes either. As a matter of fact, if I look at the last couple of years, I haven't been spending a lot of money on games. Like Gwent, I spent some money on Gwent back in the closed beta days when I was a new player and I was really hooked on Gwent and I wanted some kegs to expand my collection. I think we are talking about 30-40 euros. Then I bought Thronebreaker. I think all of you guys did. And this was the very first time since Homebreaker. I want to say Homebreaker. What the
Homebreaker?
Thronebreaker that I actually spent money on Gwent. I mean, other games.
That sounds like a Dandelion game. Home Record. The Witcher 2.
Yeah, other than that, I'm really not spending a lot of money on games. People are always tell me, play this game, play that game, and I'm like, this is money, and I'm already playing, this and that game, and they consume all of my time. So even if I buy this one, I won't have any time to play it, which is one of the reasons I've never bought Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like, people who have been always saying, you love history, you love RPGs, play it, and I know I simply won't have the time to do so.
I bought it and I literally played it for an hour. I not because I didn't like it, but it's just sitting there now. I could reinstall it on my PC. I had it on my laptop. But yeah, it's like the people who say they have 4,000 games in their Steam library because of all these Humble Bundle things or whatever. And it's how many of those have you actually played? Probably 5%.
Yeah.
If even. But yeah.
The backlog problem.
Yeah, this backlog thing.
I need to force myself to not buy anything new that's on sale because I know I have way too much I still need to finish. And I'm a real completionist, so I replay games all the time just to make sure.
But it's all about the new games. They're they're objectively better than anything that was released before.
Ignore.
Yeah, I would say the only game I spend money on the regular is again PO. But it's a relationship by now. Like, I'm not sure. Like, how was this sitcom called? Like, do you guys remember that Al Bundy sitcom? Like that guy who was a shoe salesman. His name was Al Bundy in the series. And he had a wife
I remember
named
that
May.
one.
I think it was Married with Children. I think that's how it was called.
Oh yeah.
So basically, in every episode, like his wife was just coming to him just with a hand extended, and he was just putting some money in her hand just to shut her up. And that's my relationship with PoE. Like every expansion, PoE comes to me with their hand extended. I just hand them a €50 bill and just go away.
Here you go.
That's how it works with me in PoE every expansion.
Yeah.
But speaking of expansions, I think it's a good moment to actually talk a little bit about the new development schedule, because last year we had 4 expansions in Gwent, and Slama said that they are changing their development schedule to 2 expansions, and I think we can expect 2 journeys a year. I'm not sure. It was never confirmed. I hope that it will be one day, but I think that it's something we can expect. So
I'm assuming it would happen just 4 times a year, because it's their main revenue pool right now.
Yeah.
So
Why not?
I'm guessing that's just gonna keep going.
Yeah, you think 4 expansions, 4 journeys into expansions?
I think so.
Oh,
I would assume
that would be a lot of content.
Imagine you had to complete the second journey to actually unlock the expansion cards.
Oh no, please. I think that would break the community. But yeah, what's your take on this new development schedule? Because a lot of people were saying, 2 expansions might not be enough to keep people interested, despite the journey being a thing now. So what do you guys think about it?
Go ahead.
Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'm gonna say Hesser go first.
Well, I feel like, if you look at the other card games, they are going in pretty much similar pace. So I think the 2 expansions would be just all right. Especially looking at the fact that we are all like closed up right now, and with the quarantine and no tournaments, I think that it should be fine with the regular hot fixes and some minor patches.
If they go through.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I would say it's okay.
Okay.
Weevil. Like I had to pick turns for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points really. So the two expansions means that they will be more fleshed out, and that they'll be thought about in a lot more detail. Presumably the cards will be a lot better designed and everything else, and the end result will hopefully be better. But the thing about it is, like, are casual players really going to notice the quality and the work that's actually been put in, or are they just going to notice the fact that the game has been stale for months? Where's my expansion? Like that. Like, I think that's what, like, a lot of casual players are a lot more simplistic, I think, in that regard. They're just like, oh, I only play the game occasionally, and I haven't heard anything new from this game in a while, and I can easily jump to another game because, again, casual players play like a bunch of different games. And also that's actually also tied into less regular patches, right? So, but the patches that they do release will be bigger and more substantial. Personally, I think for the more competitive player base, the meta would actually be a lot more stable for a longer period of time, which would be more conducive to running tournaments. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a good thing, because the audience for tournaments will probably drop off, because nothing is changing. It's, if it's literally just 1 or 2 or 3 decks or whatever, and because they're still like CDPR are still kind of tinkering with that ever prevalent issue of balance, because I don't think I don't think there's actually been a balanced meta yet in this game, period. Like maybe one that was almost there, but like by releasing new content, some people might say, oh, well, it makes the game harder to balance because you're constantly injecting new things. But I actually think it's like a motivator for them to balance the game better if they release content more regularly. So I don't know. I like that when the expansion comes out that I can look forward to something new and innovative and interesting. But as somebody who, you know, streams the game 6 days a week or whatever, from my side of it as a content creator, I would prefer it. Like I understand that they're a small team and that it takes them time to develop an expansion, and that they want to put more effort into these. And and actually, Slama even said it on this podcast that like it basically nearly killed him to get four expansions out in a single year. Like it was so crazy. So I understand it from his point of view, but I just think things might get a little stale. And sure, they're the ones who are measuring. Like evidently, Slama is measuring all of these numbers and statistics in various degrees, and so he's seeing all of these results. And after this year, I can, you know, assuming if the journey goes well, I don't know whether the journey will be enough to hold them up sort of to the same financial level that they were at when they had 4 expansions. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to say. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that financially speaking, the expansions were that good of a deal for CDPR. Like as TroVNut already said, Journey is now a huge influx of revenue for CDPR. I'll let him expand on that thought on his own. So go ahead, TroVNut.
Well, it's a really interesting period we're going through right now, because even though we don't get a new expansion, in the past few months, a lot of cards changed their effect completely, which was also weird because it's not just a balancing act. It's not changing provisions. It's just basically changing the entire effect of the card.
It's like
especially
a mini expansion.
like the dwarves now, for example, with the new leader abilities. That doesn't count like an expansion, but it did add a lot to the game, and it changed some cards for the better and some for the worse. I think more for the worse. Dwarves is a really good example. They're in a really weird position at the moment. But other than that, indeed, financially, it's also very interesting because with the expansions, they provided those keg packs, which were pretty expensive if you were going for, like, for example, the 50 kegs were around 50 or 60 bucks every time. And we as partners often get a bunch of those as well. And if you then open those up on stream and you get like 2 purples and an orange, then you start to think, was that worth that 50 bucks? Maybe not, because it's all randomized. Again, that's the business model, but it is what it is. And now I think with Journey, you kind of get to pay more for what you get. You know what you're gonna get, and with the kegs, it's more randomized. It's a whole loot box debacle again, but I'm not gonna go into that. But it's I feel like it's more fair towards the user that you know what you're gonna get when you lay down some money for it. Even with fast travel, you know what you're paying for, and with the kegs, it's more random. Because I've had another run. We were talking about opening kegs before. I had another run where I started opening about 40 kegs, and I think got 1 purple, and that was it. It was so bad that I was inches away from asking on the Discord, "Hey guys, did something change about the percentage of getting out of kegs? Because this doesn't feel normal."
I think for a long time people thought, and I'm not sure if it was actually confirmed, that there's a pity timer. That was in beta, and that was a major conspiracy theory behind the kegs. But to kind of follow up on what you said, I think we should stick to your own terminology, and we should say that the pricing of expansion kegs was interesting,
to say the least.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But yeah, I agree with you. But to be honest, if you are an already existing player and if you manage your resources in a certain way, you are gonna have hundreds of them. It's like right now I'm sitting on, I think, close to 300 kegs that I'm gonna get next expansion, because I have so much in-game currency. And
Oh, yeah. I've like 200,000 ore or something.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. And plus, you get like 20, 30 kegs from CDPR as a partner. So yeah, I think my collection is gonna be full when it comes to the new expansion.
It's even weird because since Homecoming, we all our cards were transmuted into resources, and I don't know if the calculation there was correct because I felt like I got way more resources than I had.
I kind of had the same feeling, yeah.
Because I could
Yeah.
just make every card from the start.
Yeah.
And premium too.
I had 960,000 scraps is what I got.
Yeah, I think I was 600,000 somewhere, and now I'm circling around 60,000 constantly, so I can still make every card I want. But
Yeah.
that was a weird jump in Homecoming.
Yeah, Homecoming was kind of crazy in that regard because I remember that I played early on and I didn't like it, and then at some point, like a few weeks after the release, I casually decided to check Reddit, and there was a post that scraps are no longer gonna be used to craft premiums, and that caused like a massive spike in people playing because everyone just rushed to use those scraps to craft those premiums when they can.
Yeah.
Similar to the panic with the auto mill feature.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was also a painful moment for
and
the people that were saving up.
Occasionally we would have exactly the same phenomenon taking place when we got full mill value for cards that had been reworked. Like you'd always see a post on Reddit with people explaining what's the best strategy of crafting and milling to get the best value out of it. And it cost a lot of people to just deploy those strategies to get even more resources from the game. Which kind of makes me think that we talk a lot about the journey and about how less rewarding it is in terms of RPs. And now I'm just thinking I have 160, 170 RPs right now, and I have nothing to spend them on. Because I already got all the faction and leader trees I wanted. I already got all the seasonal trees that I wanted, and I have they're just sitting there. I have no idea what to do with that currency.
Yeah, I think that's our position because we played so much before. We have that history of all the resources we've gathered. I think it
needs to be something beyond, like, even beyond the journey. Like I sort of thought about this as well. Like you kind of just trudge along with the journey and you finish it, and you're gonna finish it anyway. But there needs to be something that, like, so winning ranked games, right, gives you reward points as well as winning casual games. But what about winning pro ladder games? Like, what if that gives you some additional little? I've thought about this for the last few months, because like a lot of the time I feel like you work so much harder to win a game at 2.5k MMR with like whatever Scala guy or something than you do to win a casual game, and you're getting basically the same amount. So I always feel like there should have been something more to, like, once you've got your collection and you've finished your reward book and you've got your hundreds of thousands of scraps or kegs or whatever it is, and you're just sitting there it's basically expansion waiting room, like.
Yeah.
So there needs to be something more you can invest your, like, even the journey is, as I say, you'll just complete it anyway. Everyone's on the same playing field if they all buy the premium thing.
Yeah, we need a proper currency sync in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's missing. It just feels like I don't have a carrot, to chase, like, a lot of the time. And it would just be nice to have.
Once again, it reminds me of that one Spiro video that he posted a few months ago, where he said, okay, you get to pro, what now? If you are a super competitive player, you're gonna try to get to the qualifiers, etc. If you're not, what now? There is like, once you reach your vague goals of reaching this rank or getting to pro or whatever, there's nothing else for you to do. Like, even the journey doesn't really give you that many options. Like, so, I think there are quests that are bound to, like, equipping certain microtransactions. These are minor things and they are not very clear.
No, they're completely hidden. I didn't know about them until somebody was showing them to me, because they're really well hidden in the contracts. Yeah.
Those contracts are really complicated anyway.
Yeah.
I look at them like everyone always complains to me on my channel about how I just like completely ignore all questing and contracts of any kind. And I'm just like, but look at how many there are. like the whole fun and then there was a thing somebody asked me about a while ago, which is that do I actually have 1,000 wins on every faction except Syndicate? And I actually didn't think I did, and I told Bandit Gang for my profile that I had 1,000 wins in every faction except Syndicate, and then I actually checked and I was like, oh, I actually do, but that's because I've been playing a stupidly large amount of time. It's not because I'm like super skilled or whatever, you know. But but like I wasn't aiming for it either.
Yeah, I would say my faction shit is kind of different.
Nilfgaard.
Yeah, it's basically a few wins here, a few wins there, but because of Arena, and then 2k something with Novigrad.
Interesting.
And then it's not even close. It's not even close. I honestly, other than the quests that we have to do for the journey, I haven't touched other factions in months.
Yeah. Like, do you remember? Like, I won the most. I clocked up the most number of wins with monsters when Gurney was at its peak. So you remember when Arcaspor was Thrive and Death Wish, and the card was just bonkers, really. Like, so that was the first time I ever got to pro rank as well. In Homecoming and I got like, I played that deck a ridiculous amount that month, and I got like 400 wins with it or something in a month. So then that's why my monsters one is at like 1,700. And then the other ones are down at like kind of 1,200 or whatever. But those were the days when monsters used to be good.
Yeah, it's all about the reworks, which is actually our next question, I think.
Oh yeah,
that's right. So
bring it on.
We know that in some games, like the developers are doing some sort of reprints and reworks of the cards. And I'm not sure. I want to know your opinion if we have like the enough amount of cards that we can start doing some reworks. And what do you think? What kind of cards would you like to see reworked as well?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Juicy. I feel like
not dwarves.
Answers.
We get a lot of reworks already that we don't necessarily ask for. But the one I still miss from before, Sabbath. That was just a crazy card.
You are cutting out, but I think you were talking about beta.
We got Sabbath.
Yeah,
that's all we needed.
That's all we needed, exactly.
The original Imlerate Sabbath was awesome, and it was overpowered, definitely. I don't know if you remember what it did.
I do remember.
Yeah. And Sealed every turn.
I wish I could erase that from my memory.
And then just crazy to say, okay, you can duel, and then you double it. But it was not double, but it was. Oh, was it double?
Two armor.
Two armor, actually.
Two armor every turn.
I was just.
No, heal self by 2 and then 2 armor every turn, and just keep going.
Essentially, it was a Mandrake check. If you had Mandrake in your hand, you won the game. Yep. If you didn't, you lost the game.
It was base power. Yeah. No. I'm actually. I wanted to make an official statement of how happy I am that Elias finally is an actual useful card, because it is, indisputably the best premium in the game. And people actually get to use it in an elf deck now. It used to be complete garbage, whereas now like you see it everywhere, and it's just like,
it was interesting. And to be honest, okay, you can say it's a useful card now. It was kind of meme before the rework, but Elias has been at its best in beta. Like, thick Elias swap.
Was it the mulligan thing?
Yeah, it was Swapatel.
Oh yeah.
That's an archetype I miss. Like, of course, there was like, when we are talking about the mulligan / swap archetype, we had the unconditional carryover that would prevent dry passing.
That was bullshit.
Let's be clear about that. But everything else, like using thick Geralt and thick Elias, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
And you had so much cards just designed to thin your deck to get to Elias and Geralt.
You just draw them back again when you mulligan. It was
great.
Then
that was the risk of drawing all that trash was real.
Yeah.
What else? Old reveal as well. it's really weird that now we still have a few reveal cards, but they just show you the card for a
Yeah.
second and then put it back in.
Rework Spotter. Like,
Yeah.
I was gonna mention Spotter, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so like there's just relics, right? And actual, like, Sam actually said this as well, that they prefer to work on new cards than to rework old ones. Like, he just straight up said that in a dev stream a while ago, and I was like, you shouldn't really admit that, because you're basically saying that you're gonna leave all of these bronzes that were, you know, could potentially be nice. And think of the people who did the artwork for those. You know, like the artwork, it's just gonna be wasted. You know, you're not gonna get to see the premium animation for Spotter or whatever it is. It's just gonna sit there. Like, you could very easily rework that card to do something to do with current current archetypes.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to just completely change it, but just make it useful. But then you look at a card like is it Slave Hunter? Like, I prefer the old version of that card.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And they reworked it, and now it's just boring 2 damage, assimilate, whatever.
Assimilate,
But
yeah.
I like that the risk reward thing of like charming the lowest unit and then trying to make the lowest
Yeah.
unit like a 7 or something.
Yeah. You needed at least 5
so-
units, I think, right?
It was
Or-
4.
Or, yeah.
But people swarm rows they row stack all the
Yeah.
time now. So like, and if you imagine playing that against like Boost NR, like you just you could steal like even if you stole like a 5, it would still be really good. It'd be like an 11 for 5.
Yeah, I would
Like
say
that.
that was the main reason why they changed the card, because they could foresee that Swarm is gonna be a thing. So
Yeah,
leaving that
maybe.
in there was kind of risky. But I agree with you.
Maybe,
To a certain degree, I agree with what you said, because on one hand, I also understand CDPR, they don't want to rework all the existing cards, because you also have to appreciate the effort that went into designing them. But on the other hand, we have relics of archetypes that no longer exist.
Yeah, and they
Yeah, like-
rework cards. They rework other cards that don't necessarily need a rework. Like Xavier Moran
It was a fun card.
that was a good card, and now they for some reason change it to just 1 boost if it has armor. Okay.
I really like the interaction it had before.
Yeah,
But what about let's see now.
Yarpen.
I'm
You gotta talk about
cheating. I
Yarpen.
actually opened up my Gwen client to look. Saskia, right?
Saskia,
not the dragon, but the non-dragon. Like, that card is completely completely power crap now by everything else. Like, if you run like a singleton harmony deck, you could potentially put her in there, but there's just better cards, right? Like, there's just no reason to
Burza himself.
rework Burza.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, honestly, it's like a tradition in my channel that every now and then we review the Novigrad cards just to remind people of how bad they mostly are. And I think right now around 85 to 90% of bronzes in Novigrad are just trash. They're either power cracked or they are relics of archetypes that no longer exist in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And every single patch, because they rework a few cards every single time, and every single patch I'm like, please, at least a few cards. Maybe Spotter, maybe this one, maybe that one. It's just a few cards.
Yeah.
And every single time, during dev stream, I say in chat, in before Slama says, this time around we haven't touched Novigrad that much, and every single time he says it, it's like, oh yeah, Novigrad, yeah, we only changed the provisions of this one card. I'm like,
Yeah.
really, guys, really? It's been
Oh.
you haven't touched the faction since that original rework shortly after Homecoming.
Well, that's because they determined that the 5p soldier thing, whatever it's called, the 2 damage with 2 armor, like they determined that card is the unequivocally best bronze in Nilfgaard, and they don't need to create it. They don't need to change it.
The Artfian cavalry.
Yeah, like it's just the card is just insane. Like as a bronze, it's kind of got a little bit of everything, and
it's a good card, but it's a good design because you can also counter it very easily.
Yeah, like for example, if you're playing recruit, there is no reason to play combat engineer ever, right? Even
combat engineer doesn't exist for no reason at all.
Yeah, like why is it there? Like it's very strange, and like
there's a lot of cards like that in Nilfgaard.
Yeah, there's so many just completely redundant things. Like they did say spies were going to be prominent in the next expansion, so I'd be inclined not to rework any of the spy cards. I just leave them because like they're gonna.
I mean,
like,
sometimes people call for changes where those are not needed. For example, Vatier, it's a good card in terms of design. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
And I understand that not all of people are playing it, That's fine. But leave it be. It's a good card. It's a good design. Don't touch it. But there's like really cards like Combat Engineer, Spoiler, etc. that are just bad. Or you have cards that are interesting when it comes to their design, but are simply power crept, like Vrygef and FrameD.
Yep.
They need either a provision cut or a power boost.
I totally forgot about Slave Infantry.
Yeah, it got nuked to oblivion.
And then it just disappeared.
Yeah, because that doesn't. It's 4 power now, and that's the root of the problem. Because how many? In basically they are 5 provisions, I think 4 for 5. So you are mostly gonna break even. So it's gonna be 5 for 5. But on the other hand, quite often you are just either losing points or you're not gaining any value. And I think that the average for a good bronze card at this value is 7 for 5. And here you have and here you have conditional 5 for 5. It's just completely power crept.
Yeah, no, it's and like it's not even to do with necessarily the points, but it's to do with the general pacing of, we'll say, round 1, which is normally when you try to dump bronzes. Like you're literally just like look at a card like what's the name of that guy, the Alba Pikeman, right? Like that card in theory is not terrible, but no, unless you're playing again a singleton like a Shoop deck or Redea or whatever, you're not going to play it. Like you're just not.
Yeah.
Because again, the bronzes are just better.
Very easy to play around. It's basically worse Uncrate Longship.
Yeah.
It's conditional. Uncrate, look at it that way. Both are row locked. Longship has 1 more armor on top, so it's already better. Plus, you can get more than 1 point per turn on Longship if your opponent plays something like Artorius or whatever card that plays 2 cards at once.
Yeah, there's actually no reason not to give Pikeman 1 armor, like by that logic. Like just to make it similar, because they've tried to do that across multiple factions before. Like there was a recent patch where what did they do? You know the way? Oh yeah, the Glynis, right? So they basically made Glynis the same as Percival, in terms of removability. So they gave it 2 armor instead of 3. So like that sort of parallel patching, we can call it, is like pretty common, I think. Because otherwise you're just sort of saying, well, what makes this card more specialized? It's Assimilate 2 versus Harmony 2. Like it's the same card, different factions. So
yeah, it's basically the Unga concept of old. That factions have, their equivalents of certain cards and archetypes. But I think it's instead of being salty about what hasn't been reworked or what has been reworked, I think we can be salty about something else, and that's the current meta, because
here we go.
Here we go, guys. I think it's the time that everyone was waiting for, and that's Hidden Cash. On a scale from 1 to 10, how surprised are you that Hidden Cash is dominating every corner of Gwent right now?
0.
-1.
Like, where do I like? Can I go first with this? Because
I
have some properly salty points about this. So a lot of people present an argument to me about Hidden Cash and say that the reason it's broken is actually related to the coins and not to the horde. It's the fact that both of them are together. So either of them on their own would not be that great. Like, first of all, if it was 3 coins around, well, there's already a leader that's better than that, so we don't need that. But if it was only horde on its own, it would actually be okay, but they would have to give it a fairly high amount of provisions. They didn't give it like 167 or something, because it's just horde. But together, it's just like, it's unbelievably ridiculous. Like you can play that 4 provision bronze with 3 profit, and then you play your leader, and you've already got your Flying Redanian turn 1, and you're sitting on 6 coins. Like, your opponent basically is already at a huge disadvantage. And where Horde was supposed to be designed as a specialist mechanic, where you're supposed to actually plan a couple of turns ahead and actually plan your spending. Now, as Lionheart actually correctly pointed out a few streams ago, he was saying that like it's kind of like the noob leader ability for newer players. Like you can just sort of win with it, and Peaches might as well just say boost self by 1 every turn, because effectively it does. Saul might as well be at minimum a 6 for 7, and then normally with a massive upside, there's absolutely, and then things like the Dire Mutated Hound, like that's just completely fallen out of favor. There's no reason to play it anymore because Saul is just cheaper and better. It's, and that card used to be amazing. I had that in every deck, and you're just sort of thinking, what the hell happened? And like, I don't know. It's even changing the numbers to 2 in each case. I don't know necessarily. I haven't done the math on it, but I still don't feel like it would fix a lot of the problems. It's just like you have. I used to have this opinion of Syndicate where if they run out of coins, you kind of have a chance or whatever. But they never run out of coins now until the very end because they can just sit on all of their hordes and boost everything up, and then just spend at the end or when they need to. So it feels like they always have something in the bank. And yeah, it's not like it's entirely unbeatable. Like they are vulnerable to being like pushed and stuff and everything else. But serious oversight with that leader ability. All right, that's it. That's all I got for now.
I think the craziest part about it is everyone who saw that leader ability for the first time knew it's gonna be crazy. It's not like, oh, we didn't see the possible consequence of implementing that ability into the game. It was like, I got to see it and I was like, this is crazy. I showed it to Villa. Villa was like, holy fuck, everyone is gonna be playing it. This is absolutely insane. We showed it on the podcast. Everyone's like, this is just stupidly overpowered. And they still went on with their plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the best part about it, that everyone along the way was telling them, this is crazy. And tune it down when you can.
It feels like Weevil says, it's like the because you basically take away half of what makes Syndicate unique. Because normally you need to balance your gains in coins and then your spending in coins, so you're always working at least for most of the time on multiple turns to set up and then to execute on your coin spending. And now it's just okay, you just play whatever card that has Horde and it just generates points for free, and you don't need to check your spending anymore because as we've already pointed out correctly, you can just get some coins and then just sit on it until you need them eventually, or maybe just not at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely crazy.
The only remedy is killing their spenders, but even in that case, they just go Luisa Savala, and that's still like 23 points and 2 cards.
Luisa Savala was already controversial when it was released.
The problem, I think, is that Horde was perfectly balanced as it was. The prerequisites of most of the cards were fine.
Yeah.
But because of the ability, you just basically cut the requirement. For most of the cards, you just remove the requirement. For the Peaches, I think it's only 1 coin anymore you need to just have it generating. And then Soul generates 1 for free anyway. And then 2 or 3, depending on how much you have. It's just... And there's way too many of them. You can indeed try to destroy them, but there's way too many of them they can generate. And that's basically the problem as well. And you
have
can't
like a
touch
turn
the
to
coins.
deal with it, otherwise you're screwed.
let me put it that way. If you have Peaches, Soul, and God forbid the Seductresses on the board, you can as well just pass with some cards in your hand and go grab some coffee. And the odds are you're still winning that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting like 4 to 6 points a turn by just sitting there.
Yeah, plus you get more.
You're basically
points.
getting the value of an average bronze card by just sitting there. So
yeah, because your only option is to either lock or destroy those units.
Yeah, they are not
well
locked
every time.
You can't touch the coins because those are off limits. So that's the prerequisite you can't touch, which in most cases you can touch. And none of those cards are row locked anyway, so you can't move them either. You can, but it won't make any difference.
Yeah, because the idea behind Syndicate was the faction, outside of a few patches, was notoriously difficult to play. So people accepted the fact that it's often tier 1. Because it requires, the skill level required to play the faction is much higher than, let's say, when it comes to Scoia'tael, like the popular Scoia'tael decks or popular Anar decks. And now they just took it away. Like they already did a step in that direction when they added Luisa Savala, because before that, in the short round, Syndicate was not that great. Now
Not
they
great,
are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And now you have this leader ability, so everyone can play it.
Do you think it's any coincidence that they added initiative to both Igni and Scorch right when this leader comes out? Because like Precision Strike would absolutely like screw this deck over. Like I think you just line up your Igni and you just burn their
Igni
whole
broken
row.
in the first place? As in, it's not doing what it's supposed to?
Well, I think they kind of just forgot to give him a base ability,
Yeah.
which he doesn't have anymore. Scorch still has. I think Scorch still destroys the highest unit.
Yeah.
But only
It's the highest unit, initiative units.
Yeah.
And
Igni just doesn't get that. So if you don't play it on initiative, it's 2 points and that's it.
Yeah, I remember playing in the season though, and I draw my opponent's Igni, and I was like, well, what do I do with it? Nothing, because I already played the card beforehand.
Yeah. Same with like you can't take it over with the hand gate sword anymore because you lose initiative.
Yeah, because you already played the card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's true.
So
kind of broke a few interesting interactions, which could be refined, but I think it's going to make it too
I
complicated.
really liked Scorch and Igni the way they were.
Yeah.
Because it like you were playing something and you thought, I'm getting into the Scorch or Igni department. Like I'm slowly getting into that territory. And even though those cards were not extremely popular, you still thought about it. And it was nice. It was like, okay, I need to play around it even though the odds are my opponent is not playing it. Now they kind of took it away because okay, this one card is one off, so there's no way they can do something about it.
Yeah, there's also some nostalgia involved, of course, because the card that represents Gwent, and yeah, it's kind of sad, but yeah, it's a decision.
It's often the case the cards that represent a certain expansions or the official release are just notoriously bad.
Really? I mean, most
Radea was an exception.
Oh yeah, I mean that had its time in the sun.
Oh yeah,
just like Triple Siege tier.
Oh no! Oh, Triple Siege. I feel like BJ is supposed to show up in chat any moment now. You summoned him.
I wouldn't count on it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it either, but you never know.
No, but I can represent Triple as its ambassador or one of its ambassadors, so all I can say is I do miss it. I got to 2.5k with NR with Triple Siege, and it was a nice feeling, and I owe it all to basically just drawing Siege every round or every round one, and like if you don't draw it, and you don't draw your mata, you basically have to use your leader ability in round one on blue coin, and you still win the match. It's just great. It was amazing.
Okay, guys, before we get really nostalgic about things that should have not been in this game, I think it's a good moment to move to the next question.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so talking about hidden cache and the other leaders' abilities, what do you think how we could, for example, change them? Should we like tune up the other leaders' abilities as mostly like other players suggest? Or should we just nerf down, for example, the hidden cache? We were like Weevil was talking about tuning down the hidden cache a bit. That wouldn't solve the problem, probably, right? But what about the other leaders' abilities?
Yeah, I've seen someone in chat saying imposter 17 provisions when.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
The ceiling on that is a sleep. That leader is such a sleeper. Like the ceiling on that leader is insane. Like I know it's matchup dependent, but Jesus, like I seized a 24-point Bincy like last week, and like with Vatier, and that was just ridiculous. Like, and it was all thanks to my leader. Like I was able to set it up in such a way, and I don't think it'll ever be 17 provisions, but I 14 or 15 maybe. I actually really like that leader.
According
honestly.
to the hotfix that never happened, it was supposed to be bumped to 14.
14, yeah.
They were all going up one provision, I think, and then hidden cache was down.
I think Uprising was also nerfed by one. I'll have to see.
I like all the new ability. I think the only one that doesn't really strike me as too interesting is the dwarves one, the Mahakam Forge. The other ones
Yeah.
all have interesting plays. Like Uprising is yeah, I think everybody that's the other deck you see the most, I think, aside
Oh, yeah.
from Hidden Cache.
Yeah.
And then what do we have? Blaze of Glory. I play a lot of Blaze of Glory lately, and it is really fun. Even though it's not super competitive, it is very fun to just slam Jutta from the deck.
Oh no, another one saying Jutta. I think in The Witcher, in The Witcher 3, her name is pronounced Yuta.
Utah, yeah. I apologize. So just the 12 points hit that you can dish out and then get her back out of the graveyard with Sigrid Valsreit. Probably mispronounced that as well. It's
No,
just a fun finisher, even though it's not always the most competitive thing to play with. And what else did I miss then? From the Overwhelming Hunger is just all.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing new.
I haven't
really.
touched it. I haven't touched it at all.
It is.
Really
I've played Overwhelming Hunger with Blood Moon, and it is just really, really fun because you finally have a good way to fires. Because Blood Moon always had the problem that you only get the points at the start of your turn, so your opponent always has a turn to remove 1 or 2 vampires before you get the points from
Yeah.
Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like something that they should change, that you get the positive effects from weather effects on the end of your turn and not on the start of your turn. But
Yeah.
it does give you a bit more control over the amount of fires on the field. And 3 free consumes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I haven't tried yet, but I am kind of curious. Like, I mean, if I were going for like my favorite monsters deck is the Kiki Queen, deck, but the other leader ability, the what's it called, the where you create a copy of a unit or whatever, I think that's still better, like for Queen. So that's still my go-to. But I don't know. I would like to try it. Like, it kind of feels like the more Deathwish units they release, the better it will become. Like more kind of tailored towards that specific leader. But it just feels like they had, well, it was Unseen Elder back in the day who had the 3 consumes, I think. But like it feels like they had that ability in the past. They changed the Deathwish leader.
Yeah.
And then they added it back, the old one, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Just to sort of tick the box. I
think that's kind of how it feels like. I agree.
Yeah, and the only difference is that you now replace it instead of just keeping the unit alive. Because I think the original one was just trigger the Death Wish of a single unit.
I thought that was a great leader ability, honestly.
Yeah, it was a really fun leader ability. And now it just removes that. So the difference is that you now can't use it twice, which you could with the original.
Oh yeah. No, that's correct.
Because it disappears and turns into an Ekimara for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really agree with Weevil that all of them should be playable. Like, Mahakam Forge is kind of so. I don't really see much use. It's just meh, I would say. But I agree with that. Imposter is a sleeper. If the meta is right for Imposter, oh god, that's gonna be a lot of points. Because the initial reaction was, this is broken. Because people thought, like, imagine all the Damians, right? But
well, yeah, that is a point.
Yeah, Novigrad Mirror has always been a very special experience. Because for some reason Novigrad works the best against Novigrad. But yeah, if the meta is right and if you can somehow secure your Vatier to work, oh boy, a lot of points.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, as we already said, they did decide to change the leader abilities a little bit, right? And we have this quote unquote failed hotfix that they hyped up. They said it's happening. And I saw Busha saying that. I saw Slama saying that it's happening. We are doing this. And then for some reason, like a few hours later, we had a technical issue that prevented them from rolling that out. And I see that Weevil is not satisfied with that explanation.
Air quotes. I don't know.
So, what's your opinion how it was handled?
Yeah. It feels the problem is we of course have.
I know it's a dangerous territory.
Yeah, because on even as my background as a developer, it feels like it's just changing a couple of numbers, changing the trees from hidden cache to 2, and then changing the provision in the other direction. But yeah, you never know if there might have been a real technical issue. Maybe on one of the platforms, we don't know. But it was a weird situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. On the one hand, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know. Like, I felt like somebody went and said it to them, or somebody in the kind of the pro player base or whatever, and then they sort of decided to just like 180. There's no way to tell, honestly, and for us it just means dealing with hidden cache for another however many days. But
Yeah, it's
on the
gonna
one
be
hand,
2 more weeks, I think.
yeah, like on the one hand,
At
it's
least,
nice
yeah.
that if they do implement the changes that are listed there, that we know what's coming, so like that is like okay, and presumably additional changes on top of that, because like that was just a hotfix, right? This would be a proper patch, but it wasn't. I think PR wise, like I used to work in marketing and stuff, and I kind of knew a little bit about it, but like PR wise, I think could have been it could have been done better. It just felt like, regardless of how they tried to hide it, that it felt like that they did sort of, step back and say like, you need to be very careful about when you release things that you know that it's, yeah, I don't know, bit of a strange one considering it was only something like 43 minutes after the original post. I think it's like 40 something minutes.
Yeah,
It might have been.
It was in a very short sequence.
It's like, how did you have technical issues within 40 minutes when it was fine 40 minutes before? So I don't know. So,
I mean, it might have been an effect of just having that open communication. They maybe jumped the ball a little bit too soon to say, "Hey, we're going to do this." It's something that you come across during development constantly. That you think, "Hey, this works." And you tell it to the customer, and he gets it in their hands, and they're 5 minutes later, it's broken. That happens. So I definitely
this was just sand.
it can definitely happen. But it seems simple enough. But yeah, again, we don't know how it's built, how the game is structured. So
Yeah,
we don't know what the impact is. Of a
I
change like
think
that.
we shouldn't assume any bad intentions.
Of course
No.
not.
But it's definitely a Fuse Batman moment for them, because communication as a concept has been, the talk of the town for a while now. And time after time, they have the best intentions to communicate more, make changes more accessible and easier to understand for the audience. And then it somehow always backfires. Like, for example, we had Sama on the podcast, and he was talking a lot about how they want to change that moving forward. We had some clarification on the meteorite powder changes, and then we had the journey that, on one hand, everyone was excited about. On the other hand, it required Excel spreadsheet to understand. So people were like, "Well, the communication on that specific topic wasn't that great." And then we had an example of amazing communication by Slama, just explaining things using numbers and data they have. And now they saw the problem with the leaders, and they wanted to change it. They announced it on a lot of platforms, and then 43 minutes later, as we've already said, "Oh guys, this is not gonna work." So I really feel like whenever they're trying to improve, something stops them from doing so.
Yeah.
But to move to a more positive topic, we have some changes that I think Hesser knows a little bit more about.
Yeah, we get some matchmaking changes, right? And these matchmaking changes, I think they are much better than this failure with the hotfix. And we know that currently the players are going to be matched according to not only their level, but also their prestige level. So we are not be able to slaughter some noobs anymore. So what do you think? Will it address all of the issues that we had before? What do you think about these changes?
I'm hoping it doesn't cause longer delays when trying to matchmake a seasonal, but I don't
yeah.
think it will, since in ranked that usually flows pretty well. But it might cause some, depending on how high level you are. I can imagine that if they look at the level of prestige, that it could take quite some time if you're a very high level player to find another. It depends on how they implement it, of course, how big the difference can be and how far that skews towards the end of the prestige
Yeah,
ranks.
I feel like the prestige thing will be weighted like it. I don't think it should be weighted necessarily that. Like I don't know. I think it should be based on a more kind of like you're for example, somebody could come into the game, play it for a month and a half, and be in the top 100 just because they're prolifically talented or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just because they're not at, but if they match against a prestige 1 player, then that person is not going to be at that level, presumably. If they're not playing in pro ladder, for example, they're playing in seasonal, as you say. So like, I feel like it should be more based on like win rate or something. Like it would be a nice way to do it, because if somebody is or their MMR, if they're in pro rank, you know, their MMR is
Yeah.
like 10k. Although that you're talking about match queue times, like you'd be like, well, who's playing in like on the last day of pro ladder right before a challenger event? Like who's playing in seasonal mode right now? Who's 10k MMR? Nobody. So like, but yeah, no, it is nice to see, honestly, but because I don't intentionally try and like half the time when I play in casual, I just see people trying to complete quests. Like there was a dude just playing he was playing like I was saying boosting a certain number of units or something,
Or
but he was
playing
literally
all
just playing.
neutrals.
Yeah, he was playing Wyvern Scale Shield and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, it was like cool. And then I actually was like, just like I helped him complete his quest because I kept playing my cards so that he could play his cards, and kind of interact with things and whatever. And I was like, yeah, happy to help you out, but I wasn't intentionally trying to like pub stomp, as the term used to be called in like Call of Duty lobbies and stuff. But it is nice. It is nice to see.
Yeah, but does it really address the issue? Because I think, and we talked about it yesterday, I think for the majority of new players, seasonal still seems like the go-to mode. It kind of seems like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to play.
Oh yeah, this misperception. Like even a guy I encountered last week, Irish, like I can no longer call myself the only Irish Gwent streamer, which is sad, because this guy also streams Gwent now. But yeah, he came to me initially because I was the other Irish person, whatever, and he was like, yeah, you know, what should I be doing and stuff. He's like, it feels weird, you know, coming from Hearthstone. Seasonal seems like it doesn't quite seem like a normal kind of ranked type thing. I was like, that's because you should be playing classic. And he's like, oh, okay, now I understand. And I kind of feel like it's in the middle, you know. It's sort of, as soon as I explained to him, I was like, Tavern Brawl. He's like, oh, of course. So seasonal is Tavern Brawl. Classic is classic, you know. But yeah, I can understand how you can misinterpret that. But yeah, I mean, it seems elementary to me, but that's only because I've been playing it for so long. But the parallels are in other card games too, so it's not like it's completely new territory to have a special rule set that like rotates. Yeah,
because the positioning of Arena is actually better in that case, because it's clear that it's a separate game mode.
Yeah.
Well, now you first go into play, and then the first thing you see is seasonal, which is not representative for the base game because it always has a custom rule set.
yeah, because and it also makes sense where it's called seasonal, so you'd imagine there's like ranked seasons, you know, or it's like
Maybe
The
it would
naming
be
is a
better
bit
to just
off.
call it special mode.
Special one.
for the special
or-
people.
For the special people.
Or just
arcade, like Overwatch does. Arcade
Yeah.
feels
Sounds
like
good.
because it sounds less than now. Classic sounds like it's the old thing,
Yeah.
and that's I think the biggest problem. If you
Yeah.
call seasonal arcade or something like that, so it sounds older than. Yeah, what would you use? I feel like it should just be quick match, but and then because you have that toggle and untoggle ranked mode anyway. So why is
Yeah.
that not just called quick match? That's the term
Quick
that every
play.
single game
Quick
uses.
play,
Quick
competitive.
play. Yeah.
Select your hero. I mean deck.
Classic seems like a mode. If you just look at it from a distance, Classic seems like a mode where you can only play with the base card game, the base game cards.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Really?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's the classic mode.
So instead, I would almost say that instead of actually solving the problem, they try to go around it, and do something that doesn't need doing. Because really, just change the names of those modes, and most of these new players are not gonna play Seasonal anyway. So these matchmaking changes will be obsolete, I would feel like.
Yeah, I think if you stay away from the fact that people might be confused about what seasonal and what classic is, I think it still makes it better if you know what seasonal is and you're a new player.
Yeah, of course, it makes it better. But I
you
would
don't come across
rather
a
I would
prestige
rather
template
have
immediately.
them, make it clear now and then maybe look into matchmaking, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, indeed. But again, yeah, priorities is
Oh yeah.
what they feel like is their priority.
Well, there's one priority that's been around for a while, and that's that Pavel Buzha needed support as the community manager, and he finally got it. Ryan Godric joining
Nice
CDPR.
segment.
How cool is that, guys? I've known Ryan for ages.
What a guy.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. It's really cool to see somebody kind of like move camps, but it just makes sense.
I mean, are you trying to imply that he's no longer one of us?
No, I just mean it kind of feels like he goes to the other. It's not a matter of sight. Might have missed.
You're just our man on the other
explain
side,
it.
right? So
There we go.
Yeah, he's our insider now.
yeah.
Yeah, man. He's like your local politician. He's like, any
Yeah.
concerns or issues you want me to deal with?
Yeah,
I'll
he's
see your
our
door.
man. He's our man now. Like
Yeah.
I can like the moment they announced it, I can imagine his mailbox or whatever platform he's using being completely full with requests.
I love
Yeah.
his announcement. Well, not announcement, reaction was so down to earth. Like I had a really hard time keeping this to myself. Was the first thing he said.
Yeah.
Wish
Yeah,
you
I
could
can
that.
only imagine how it felt for him because he's probably known it for months. I've known this particular thing for a couple of weeks, and it was hard for me to keep to myself as well because I was like, Jason told me, and he told Lionheart and Tia and everyone who was around at the time, and I felt like, should I go to Ryan and congratulate him now?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I keep it to myself for the time being? Like when I'm talking about communication problems within CDPR, should I mention it to anyone? Is it like a hidden leak that I should really, keep to myself for the time being? So in the end, I decided, okay, I'm not gonna tell anyone about that, and we see how it develops. But I was really wondering like how much time it's gonna take for CDPR to actually announce it, and it took around a month after I heard it. But I can only imagine how difficult it was for him. Like, this, and it's something you are very eager to announce. Because for me, it was just a rumor, like a leak of sorts. But for him, it was I'm working for the company I always dreamed of working for, and I can't tell anyone. That's gonna sound like that's really.
I was gonna ask about like the structure in that organization because it seems like they had several community managers at one point. But I presume there's community manager for CDPR and then there's community manager for Gwent specifically. Because I remember at one point that there was Alicia and Buja were both community managers.
Yeah, except Buja was senior and she was junior, I think.
Yeah. So what does that make? What happens now then? Does Alicia
my thinking is that she also manages other communities, not only Gwent, and Ryan is strictly Gwent.
Right.
I think that's how it was explained yesterday.
Cool.
But I'm super happy.
He's gonna be on the dev streams then.
He should be. I mean, it's not a leak because I haven't talked to him yet. But holy shit, I'm totally talking to him about being on the podcast.
No, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's really good. It's fine. Like, it's great to, like, Buja is absolutely amazing, and he's doing a really good job and stuff. But it's so nice now to have as well as him, like, one of the people, the people who were streaming Gwent and climbing pro ladder and just like grinding it out and stuff. And obviously, it's been a few months since he's done much of that. But I think he's doing a PhD or something, is he? As well, I don't know, Ryan Godric. But either way, he was busy with other things. But he was part of the community, and we all got to know him super well, and Team Artusa and everything else. And
Yeah.
It feels really
it's
good.
just really nice.
And I think he's going to be an amazing fit for Pavel. Might be just my own, observations, but I had the opportunity to talk to both of them, and it seems like there is something more going on than just co-workers, colleagues. Like, they are good friends. I feel like.
Oh, is this Ash?
What about Ash?
I thought you were talking about Ash there, so you cut out, and then I.
Oh, I did cut out. No, I said that I feel like Ryan is gonna be a great fit for Pavel, because it seems like they are friends and not only colleagues.
Okay.
I think to manage a community, it's always handy to have the backup just in case something happens to either one of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, he seems like the perfect guy to do that.
Yeah.
I wonder if Ryan cycles. They could totally go on like
I don't know.
Marathons.
Marathon runs.
Well, maybe he. I know that Panda does. Panda does.
Yeah.
Like, when Panda was on this show, the reason why we had to move it a couple of hours was that he was actually running a semi-marathon with Pavel. So he told me, "Sorry, I can't do 12. I have to. We have to move it to 4 because I'm doing something with Pavel."
Right. Fair enough.
They were running. Just don't get any wrong ideas there, guys. We've been live for slightly longer than 2 hours, so I think we have to kind of move a little bit faster. So competitive Gwent. That's something I briefly want to talk about. Have you watched the World Cup? Are you gonna watch the Cards for Humanity today?
Possibly,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of dip into that stuff sometimes when I'm working or whatever. Particularly when like I think there was a couple of Bandit Gang members who were playing in a tournament there. The one with the multiple nations, the TA one.
Yeah, the World Cup.
Yeah, so they were playing that, and I checked those matches out specifically just because I was kind of having an investment.
Villa versus Moligian. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was nasty.
Like, Moligian just.
The first play to reverse the coin flip, I already knew. Oh shit, here we go again. That was so nasty. Have you guys seen it? Have you guys seen it?
No, I
so basically, Moligian was playing Lockdown Novigrad versus Syndicate, but it wasn't Hidden Cash. It was Blood Money, I think.
Yeah.
And Moligian went on blue. So what he did was he played Isbel, and then he played Mada. Villa didn't have an answer, so basically they were both at 10 points. Moligian had tactical advantage and 11 points on the board, and Villa had to go first. So basically, he reversed the coin flip with 16 points to his name.
Nice.
I mean, I've never thought of that. Because the way I saw McBeer talking about Isabel during that match was like, people usually try to play her in a mill deck or maybe some sort of scumbag move as a last play when you have the last side to get more cards of your to play in round 3. But this I've never seen it before, and I'm not sure if Villa has ever seen it before. I didn't talk to him about it, but oh my goodness! Like, imagine going second, and then within 2 turns you are back at 10 cards, and you have to go first, and your opponent has 16 points.
It was wildcard, by the way, not.
Oh, it was wildcard. Okay.
Yeah, but even so, like the impact is the same.
Yeah.
He lost that game, obviously.
Isbel is definitely not a card you would see that early in a game.
Not to mention that he got Savola from Isbel. He got Village Savola, if I'm not mistaken.
Nasty.
Yeah, and then I think when he played Vilgefortz, it pulled some sick card as well. So like overall, like Mulijin got all the things he needed out of Villa. That was just nasty. And McBeat said on Twitter, it's probably the craziest game he's seen in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. But anyway, the reason why I'm talking about these tournaments because Cards for Humanity, the final Gwent portion of it, starts today at 5 p.m. CST. It's gonna be casted by our friends McBeard and Flake, who we know from the official tournaments. They have great chemistry. They are a great caster duo.
Greatest duo ever.
Yeah, I love watching them. And yeah, it's a charity event, and all the proceedings are gonna be donated towards various communities trying to help others with the corona situation, because as we know, not every community has the resources to properly deal with it. So it's a very noble goal. It's like the quality of the tournament is very high. It's gonna be casted, so I really think everyone should watch, or at least stop by at some point. So if you are interested, guys, I can only recommend going to twitch.tv/983events, giving them a follow so that you get notified whenever the tournament is live. And it's gonna start at 5 p.m. CST today. So really, guys, I can only encourage you to watch, at least stop by, and if you have any money you can spend on this, I can only encourage you to do so, because it's definitely worth every penny.
Yeah. Also, Mark, it's worth knowing that Mark Diaz is behind the organization of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Mark Diaz, we
kind of pillar. He was a great member of the kind of streaming community for a long time, and he always had an aptitude for this kind of event type stuff. And I know him pretty well, and him and Flake are just just very, very close. So like he's a really an awesome guy, and he he puts so much work into organize these events. So just just as Weissenberg said, just even if you can spare a little bit just to help out, then like it's just a small thing, and it'll make such a huge difference. So yeah, I'm gonna be shepherding all my viewers later over there. So
yeah, you should definitely do it. We actually had some more questions or topics to discuss about competitive Gwent, but I think considering the time pressure, we are gonna move on to the personal Q&A, if you guys agree. Because technically, the idea behind this episode changed a couple of times. So initially, the idea was that we were supposed to have TwitchCon in a couple of weeks, and Weevil was putting together a group for a meetup during the event. And I thought, wow, that's a really nice idea, and I like the effort, and I like the community aspect of it. So I thought Weevil should definitely be on this episode. And then sadly, because of the corona situation, the event is not going on. Nobody's coming to Amsterdam. So we changed the theme to new teams on the block, because Weevil is part of Team Bandgang, and TroVNut is part of Team Elderblad.
Team Elderblood.
Yeah, we actually had this idea of Team Elder Gang.
Okay.
So Team Elder Blood. And the question I wanted to ask here is, can you tell us more about the teams you are part of and their origins? Because I'm sure that not everyone who is in chat right now has heard of them. I mean, a lot of people on Twitch heard about Bandit Gang because it's been around for a few weeks and it has a significant number of streamers. So yeah, guys, tell us something more about the teams you are part of.
Do you start, Weevil, or?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So I'm basically gonna try and not I'm not gonna try and say anything that is technically incorrect, but from the words of Bandit Pig himself, he said that the purpose of the team initially, and which has obviously developed and expanded over time, is filling the what he calls filling the niche of meme content. So like the types of decks that we would publish in articles and things wouldn't necessarily be the most competitive, but they wouldn't be completely, you know, targeted at casual players either. So it's not like you can't take you know, these decks into Pro Ladder and actually do okay with them. It's just that they're not optimized for like high pro ladder play. So that's in terms of content creation. We publish 5 days a week, various different types of things, videos, articles, and things like that, interviews, and we have various different types of personalities on our content creation team. So I for example, I manage all the proofreading and editing for like a lot of the articles that come in, because it's closely related to what I do in my job as well. But then there's other people who, you know, like BJ, who would like to do interviews with other content creators, and you know, there's people who do YouTube videos once a week, and everyone kind of contributes, you know, bit by bit. And one of the things I really want to emphasize with this team is that, like, purely either coincidentally or otherwise, we all get on really, really well. Like we're just very, very close knit community. There's no pretense, there's no drama, there's no nonsense. We know what we want to do. It's pretty chill most of the time. As for the competitive side, it's a relatively small group for now, but I do feel that the people who do represent the competitive sort of side of this team are still, they play at a really, really high level, and they meet regularly. They go over footage, they talk about stuff, even if there's something they could have done a little bit better in a particular match, or for example. So they're very, very dedicated. And I don't know like Bandit Pig's precise plans about kind of recruitment, and whether like he recruits, like the system through which he recruits new players and stuff. But I am assuming that competitive team will grow over time, and the aim of that, of course, is to play at the highest level in, you know, all of the bigger tournaments. But for now, as a team that has effectively only existed, I think, since November, I was one of the first people to join, actually, and which was originally sort of seen as a bit of a meme in itself. It wasn't even, you know, seen as something that serious. It actually, it's really, really turned into something just like genuinely cool that I want to be a part of and help out with. And like, even though I'm working a full-time job and there's not a huge, I wouldn't have time to commit to writing like articles and things, even though, as I say, I will be more than capable of doing so. I just talked to BJ and said, like, well, what can I do? You know, I have these are the skills that I have. How can I help out? And everybody kind of feels the same way. Like nobody feels like they come in and say like, oh, there's nothing I can do here. So, it's a nice, it's like, we want to get more reach ultimately, and just, you know, just expand the brand and stuff. But for now, we're actually just having fun with it. We have a nice schedule. We meet regularly, and while at the same time we keep it, you know, we keep it pretty chill. So it's a nice team to be in, for sure.
Yeah, I like the part where you said it started as a meme, because I actually remember that it started as a tag on Baby Joseph's Discord, where Bandit Pig just added a new custom tag to his name, which was BG. And then at some point he decided, you know, that the idea evolved enough for him to start an actual team. And as you said, it started as a meme, nobody was taking it seriously. But now, a few months later, you guys begin to be seen as an established brand. So I can only say I'm really, really impressed by the effort, you know, that went into it. Not only Bandit Pig who got the ball rolling, but everyone who contributed.
Yep.
You
BJ
guys,
in
you got
is an absolute workhorse. Like he does so, like Bandit Pig and BJ together, drifting as well. They just so much behind the scenes that you don't even notice. Like the amount of, like, even talking about thumbnails for YouTube videos, there's a huge amount of discussion and design that goes into that. All these little things that you think are trivial, like they just put so much time into it. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
I'm really impressed. And you guys got BJ to write articles. Like,
he's actually a very good writer.
Yeah, I know, but without
Apart
bashing,
from lack of punctuation, which I have to correct on a regular basis. If he's listening, I'm sure he knows his stream. He started with stream title. where his stream titles would be really long, and they'd be like 3 sentences, but it would only be 1 sentence because there'd be no commas or anything. But other than that, he's actually improved a lot with his commas. I've tried to explain, there's this thing called a comma. You need to use it sometimes.
But he's been always a good writer, and I was trying to motivate him to write something for TRS, but I understand that he needed a proper environment to do it. And now that he's surrounded by friends, by people he's known for quite a few years within the community, he feels the urge to contribute in that way. So really happy for him to find a place like that, and for you guys to have him on your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, moving on to
BJ.
Team BJ. Moving on to Elderblood, because I have to say, once again, I was really impressed. As I told you yesterday, I visited your website. I thought, new team, don't expect too much, and I was like, oh wow, this is something. This is not what I expected.
Yeah, we really started off in full force because we're a brand new team, a Gwent team that only started about a month ago. And most of the group right now are new additions since the start. And the basic group where we started with mainly came from like community events and tournaments. Mainly like projects like the My Esports website that our team leader Kiss and Run started out with before. That's how I rolled into the team as well. He asked me if he could publish my content on his website at that point, which was still relatively small at that point. But he was doing community events and stuff like that, community tournaments, running all of that. And then about a month ago, we started working on the team itself. Started looking for a proper name and etc. And that turned out to be Team Elderblood. And so around half our team right now is from Poland, and the rest of the team is basically from all over. And that's why, of course, our content is mainly in English. And then I should definitely talk about our team leader, Kiss and Run, which is spelled the same way that you would just write it down. So it's nothing fancy about that. But he does an immense amount of work. He manages those custom tournaments, those community tournaments. He is the driving force behind our very quick snapshot we even came up with. And we actually just updated I think 2 hours ago. So there's an update on that as well. And we try to just start to get going content wise, because I'm responsible for a video maybe once every 2 weeks, every week if I have the time. But that, I think, team wise goes more towards the content that Team Bannergang also makes, more like thematic decks that kind of make sense lore wise, but maybe not always competitive wise. So try to make something fun instead of really competitive. And of course, we also have a group of competitive players that are starting to work their way up as well. We have our first player that actually can play in the qualifiers for the Season of the Bear. That was, I think, Bart. So we're starting to make things work on that front as well, even though we're just getting started. And basically, yeah, since we're a really new team, our options are still open. So if you're interested in joining either the streamers, the content team, or the competitive team, you can contact Kiss and Run on Discord or send him a direct message, and we can he'll deal with that from then on. Then, but it's amazing how much he did, because he's also website. I think he made most of the stuff on the website as well, starting from the My Esports website now to the Team Elderblood website, which is why it looks so nice as it already does. And yeah, we'll continue to make content. We're working on an interview series that we're every week, and then a deck series as well, aside from what I already do, also once every week. So we're starting to get there.
Cool. Yeah, and as I said, very impressive stuff. Especially the fact that you have snapshots, this early on. Like most teams would not feel very comfortable making those, especially as a new brand on the market. And you guys just
dove in.
Yeah, it was like right off the bat, and I I was surprised. I almost shocked. Like, what? Meta snapshots from Team Elderblood like this early? Damn. Because there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. So that's basically
you have to type out hidden cache like 13 times. It's tough, you know. Copy paste, same deck list. You know, no, not really. But yeah, no. Tier 1, hidden cache. Tier 2, hidden cache.
Well, basically it's that 5 stars hidden cache, and then a half.
And then he's cutting out because it doesn't matter anymore after hidden cache.
Yeah, is it hidden cache?
Yeah.
Cash.
Yeah, very interesting story, guys. We have more questions to ask about the teams, but once again, time pressure, 2.5 hours already. So we have 2 personal questions, one for each one of you, and we're gonna go with them. So Weevil, because I've known you for what, 2 years and some change, I think.
2.5, 2.25, maybe. Yeah.
And you are one of the very few streamers, if not the only streamer, who stuck with Gwent through thick and thin. Like, I remember times where everyone was like, Homecoming.
Me and Swim kept going at one point.
Yeah.
There was a 2-month period where it was just me and Swim and nobody else.
Yeah, I remember those times. It was like everyone was just abandoning the ship, because for content creators, that 6-month drought between beta and Homecoming was something they were not ready to deal with. So a lot of people left around that time, and you kept going. And I remember telling you that this is crazy and the game is not fun, and you should just move on.
You definitely visited many times to reiterate the
and
same
you kept
things.
Going, and you are still here.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I wanted to ask, how do you look back at this journey as a Gwent content creator? Because 2.5 years, many different versions of the game, the official release, now the iOS and Android release, and you are still here making content 6 days a week.
Yeah, like honestly, the journey can be divided into several parts. So, like initially when I started streaming, I didn't network like at first. So, because I was too shy, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I like, technically speaking, like my skills in like video editing, sound, and all these other things were just either lacking or non-existent. So, and I actually did it on a dare, believe it or not. So a friend of mine had a YouTube channel for it was to do with like it was something to do with technology. I don't remember exactly what it was. Yeah, and he showed it to me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty easy to set up or whatever." And then I had just left a job, and had a fair amount of money saved up, and we went on a New Year's Eve trip down to Lisdoonvarna in County Clare, which is like this really nice little, the Cliffs of Moher there, which is like a famous landmark in Ireland. And we were in a pub and we were chatting, the only pub in the village, by the way. That shows you how small it was. And he said, "Yeah, I dare you to set up a Twitch channel for a month and see what happens." So I went on PC Specialist and I bought a full tower PC with my buddy. And I was like, if I'm going for this, I'm gonna go all in. And then it was completely disillusioned, like when I started, because like I didn't actually, as expected, I didn't get much going with it at all. And then I saw all these other people, and I was like, well, my lighting sucks, right? So then I bought these like really hot yellow lamps, and they were like awful because like they lit my face, but they also burned me alive. Like so the first 6 months was literally just me trying to figure out like, how the hell do I want this room to look, never mind streaming the actual game. In terms of the redevelopment period, it was really tough. Like a lot of the time I just felt like not streaming at all, but somehow I managed to drag myself back for at least 2 to 3 hours every day. But then like the next phase after Homecoming launch was everything kind of changed, right? So I traveled a lot more. So I took a famous trip to Boston, which I won't discuss here, but which Weissenberg remembers quite well, based on how it how it ended and everything else. But I did all sorts of crazy stuff. I grew a lot as a person, right? And then I came back from that a lot more grounded, and I was able to sort of look at my stream and this thing that I really enjoyed and transform it into something a lot better. So I started networking more. I came out of my shell a lot more. I just like dropped into other people's streams and did more co-op things. I went to TwitchCon in Berlin. That was last year, about a year ago, actually. And yeah, it was, it's been, obviously I haven't been like exploding in growth or anything like this, excluding the Christmas period, which was quite nice. But what I have been doing is just being more aware of, the types of little things that I can change. So one of the things I did mention about the Bandit Gang thing is team is that we value these what we call minimal gains, which is just like little increments, like improvements over time. And for streaming, for me, it's always been focusing on the 1%. So there's even a tiny thing you can do to make the stream a little bit better for everybody. Then like you do that and you see the results. And but mostly for me, it's almost like a form of therapy. I don't know how else to call it. Like it's like a version of talk therapy, right? You sit in front of a camera, and if you had a great day, you talk about that. If you had a crap day, you talk about that too, right? But people will just sort of listen, and then all the while you're moaning about him Cash being OP, whatever. But ultimately, it's just a space for you to be a version of yourself that is upbeat, confident, positive, whatever. Sometimes not so positive. In the case of Weissenberg with Nilfgaard and stuff. But sometimes. But it's been hugely transformative for me as a person. And I can't imagine life without it now. And incidentally, I did solve the lighting problem. I bought one of these Elgato key light things. I'm not sponsored, by the way.
But you can find the link in the chat.
yeah, but it's actually solved all my problems because it's really low lighting and it's not warm, and my face is probably looks reasonably okay. But yeah, Twitch it's changed my life for the better, and Gwent in particular, and I have no plans to stop anytime soon. So that's it from me. Yeah.
and that's quite a story. Like I've never realized how much was into it, because as a viewer you only see a certain part of streamer's personality and his thought process. So now that you explain this in detail, it gives me much more of an idea of what you went through and how the journey was progressing, from time I first met you 2.5 years ago to where we are now.
Yep. I think it came along at just the right time. Like, as I said, like the job that I stopped, I hated that job, and I was like, I need a project, right? And I didn't even watch Twitch before this. That's the funny part. I didn't watch Twitch for a single minute before I started streaming it, and then I didn't know anything about it. I knew it existed. I knew that Amazon owned it, etc., but I didn't know much else. Whereas other people would network for 5 or 6 months, like BJ did that, and then he started streaming. But I didn't do any of that. So I just sort of like jumped in, and then, so it was crazy. Like 1 week I was sitting in this environment in a pub chatting to my friend, and then next week I was like lifting this, whatever 20 kilo PC up my stairs into this new room, and with this new desk and from IKEA and like a new chair, and like I was like, okay. Oh god, memories.
Oh yeah, like when I look back at the early days of my streaming, oh god, don't remind me. But as I said, this gives me a lot more insights on how you develop as a streamer and as a person. I think that we like to hear a similar story from our other guest, right, Hesser?
Yeah, TroVNut. So tell us about your channel. I know that you used to stream as a bit, but you're more into YouTube content right now, right? And it's not only about Gwent, but it's also about some other games, including my favorite genre, RPG. So tell us about that.
So I've been making videos for now, I think, I just had to check it yesterday to see how long. And I've been 5 years. Big reality check. But I've always been playing just mainly single player games on YouTube as a sort of let's play style series, and always try to do what I love to play, and it started from there. Very humble beginnings, no networking like Weevil says, is just trying to do my own thing and seeing where that goes. And then I just really liked it. Like my feelings toward making content is similar to what Weevil said. It's really like almost like therapy, like free therapy, where you just put your mind to something and just keep doing that because of you. Even though my audience is small, has always been small, and will probably stay pretty small unless, of course, this blows up. But at a certain point, I started on a very big project, and I was doing a full playthrough of The Witcher 3. And that's when everything started growing a little bit more. I got really into the game. I started spending a lot more time on making those videos work and trying to advertise them a little bit. And that eventually, a year and a half later, ended out as a 200-part series where I did basically every single quest in The Witcher 3 and Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. So that was a humongous project if I look back on that. And that's where most of my audience right now still comes from, I think, from the people who found my Witcher series and then just started looking at my other stuff. Then after The Witcher 3, that was around the time that Gwenten came out in beta. Really enjoyed it, and then I started to think maybe I can do just opinion pieces about specific cards, talking about the card specifically, or some fun decks I was playing around with. And that's where the Gwent Edge series started off with. And then I just did that sporadically when I had the time, because it's a lot more effort to make those videos than just the normal Let's Play series. There's a lot more editing involved. There's a script involved, gathering enough content to actually use in the video itself, playing a lot of matches to see what works and what doesn't. Then getting the script ready, doing the voiceover, that all time, which is why the Gwent videos usually air in the over the weekend, because I have a little bit more time to do that. And then because of those videos, Kiss and Run contacted me to if he could publish my videos on his website as well, and that's how the ball got rolling into Team Elderblood. Right. The reason why I don't really stream is more of a health reason. It's going okay right now, but I have a lot of allergies. So I try to stream if I can now more in the last few weeks than before. But I've always felt uncomfortable to do that because I have a lot of allergies, so a lot of issues breathing sometimes, sneezing, coughing, and stuff like that, which is definitely not always
like coronavirus.
Hi everyone. And that's what made me really uncomfortable to start doing streams, but it's going better. I'm doing a sort of personal therapy to get rid of most of those allergies, because it's I have something what's called a poly allergy, which is basically I'm allergic to like half a dozen types of trees, grass, fungus, and basically every mammal known to man.
Including humans.
Instead of humans, yeah. Basically, cats, dogs, horses, and stuff like that. But I kind of got through that okay eventually. So now I'm experimenting with talking more to people like we're doing right now and doing more streams.
I mean, if you just keep horses out of your stream room, it should be
Roach comes jumping through the window.
Yeah, it glitches into the room.
But basically, I'm trying to do more special things in Gwent. I did a video a while back about the details you can find in the artwork Gwent, aside from just doing deck guides as well, or just doing opinion pieces. Like the last video I did was about Journey specifically. The one before that was just talking about the pros and cons of Nilfgaard, and I did a really extensive one where I talked about the White Orchard in The Witcher 3 and how it's basically the perfect introduction to any game ever and how it handles that on a technical front. And those are the videos I really like doing. But then again, it's also the where you take about 10 to 15 hours to make everything work together for what basically amounts to a 10 or 20-minute video. But it's really cool to have the feeling of accomplishment from making those videos is a lot better than the Let's Play series. I still like doing that as well. Which brings me back to something what Weevil said before, that I try to focus on games where the experience is specific to the player at that point. So like for now I'm playing XCOM, which is always randomly generated. Everything that happens in my missions will not have happened in anybody else's playthrough.
Yeah.
Because you definitely see that pulls a more of an audience than just playing, for example, Uncharted or The Last of Us or something like that.
Yeah, there's games that are more streamable than others, basically.
Yeah.
The one I'm streaming right now is Assassin's Creed. I feel like I can get that game is so humongous that I still don't understand how the developers even managed to pull that together. So I'll definitely play stuff that other people must have not seen at that point. So, but other than that, yeah, we're still very slowly growing, one
Alright,
subscriber
sweet.
at a time.
All right. And how do you see the future of your channel? Are you gonna, let's say, the variety streamer more of, or move into something like more like one-sided specific?
Yeah, I'm trying to gauge how much I can get away with, because I'm a variety kind of shift on the fly, since my audience isn't also that big.
Yeah.
But I really like doing those analysis videos, which is where I want to start putting more work in. But again, yeah, you need the time for it, and then of course that has an impact on your release schedule. So for now, I'm trying to limit my different series to at maximum 3 at the same time, because otherwise I always have the feeling I want to do lots of different things at the same time, and that never works. So now I'm just doing XCOM, Fallout, and then Resident Evil is a series we do with 2 of my friends as well, where we try to swap controllers every 20 minutes and then watch the mayhem happen when we don't remember the controls anymore. That's more of a comical series, and then of course the Gwent videos, where I try to put as much effort in as possible. And I still have plenty of ideas moving forward to make special one-off videos. I have the script ready for another video to talk about things you might have missed in Gwent art, part 2, which should also be hopefully interesting to a lot of people, because that's
yeah,
mainly
there's
my
like characters
goal.
in the background and stuff that
Yeah.
like Geralt is in the background of a lot of, or a few of the cards, like those new the 6 power ones that spawned the treasure or whatever. Like obviously you can, so that's not, but like he's in a lot of things. He's in Slice the Duchess one as well. Like
Yeah.
where's Geralt? It's like, where's Waldo?
It's the
always
same with
really cool.
Siri, right?
Yeah, Siri. You can see Siri. That's one of Siri in the background, Johnny card, because that's basically a scene that if you play The Witcher 3, Johnny tells Geralt, "Hey, I saw Siri running around the forest here," but you never actually get to see that scene, and the Johnny card actually shows him shitting in the bog, and Siri running around in the background. But you need to.
He's not shitting in a bog. He is defecating
To
at the
sunrise.
To the
sunrise.
sunshine.
Downright glorious. That's what he says.
Downright glorious. But mainly my goal with those videos is I try to inform people on things they might not have noticed in the first place, and that's what the accomplishment comes in, the really good feeling that you've taught somebody else something they haven't noticed before.
Yeah, I would say the first accomplishment is that you actually spotted this. Because sometimes these things are quite obvious. But I had a moment like this myself, and I was excited and ashamed at the same time, because I played The Witcher 2 6 times, I think. And then some time ago, I was looking at the Shillard card, and I was like, wait, that's Asira in the background. She's being murdered by Rainwald. How the fuck didn't I see it before? Like, I've been playing this game for so long.
Yeah.
And I feel like this sense of pride, I found it, but on the other hand, I played The Witcher 2 so many times. I'm just really dumb. So, but I've been enjoying those videos of yours, and I've seen like, a couple of those where when you are playing with friends, and to see your reactions to what happened on the screen. That's quite hilarious. So yeah, really, guys, I'm really happy to have you here on the show today, because I think we are slowly moving to the part where you are supposed to sell out your content as much as you can. So before we say our farewell, guys, where can our viewers find you if they feel the inner urge to do so? And I think we're gonna start with Weevil, because I feel like he has something very inspiring to say.
Right.
What makes you say the cheeky grin on my face?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Not really. See, like I don't have I have a YouTube channel, but I don't just because I think streaming and YouTube at the same time is it, at least for me personally, it's too much right now, and with a full-time job on top of that. Like I can't do it all. I would love to, but I can't. But anyways, yes, the main platform I'm active on is obviously Twitch. I stream currently working from home and stuff. I have the opportunity to go live a little bit earlier and stuff. So I stream 6, sometimes 7 days a week. Actually, I took my first break yesterday, first time in 3 weeks. So yeah, normally 3 or 4 hours at a time, and I focus mostly on Gwent. I'd say about 90% of the time, but also I have been playing a bit of FF7 Remake as well. There's a bit of a love triangle in that game, so I'm kind of curious to see where it ends. It's basically a Final Fantasy harem edition, because like Cloud is just like gathering a harem of people. But anyways, twitch.tv/Weevil89. You can find me there, and I used to be the only Irish Gwent streamer, but there's now 2. But I'm the handsome one, so there you go. That shameless plug complete.
No, Triple Siege comments. I think you wrote a poem that you were supposed to read.
I had an ode. It's an ode, actually.
Oh.
If you must know. Let me just find it. I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's part of your closing statement, so feel free to read it to our audience.
I'll read a segment, right? So I created a series of commandments related to Triple Siege. So commandment number 1: thou shalt not pass in round 2. Number 2: thou shalt not play any round without first thinking, is it possible to draw siege this round? If the siege has not been bestowed upon you, do whatever you have to, including and especially using your leader, even on blue, to obtain it. Siege is love, siege is life. Be as greedy as possible. Always assume the opponent is tilted and emote regularly. When facing Yennefer's deadly invocations, get the Aphiri merchant to bribe her, and all will be well. In fairness, I really miss it. So to those who took up the mantle of Triple Siege, I'd like to say thank you. You made a great difference to the world we live in, and to my life and my happiness. And I think in some small way that the Church of Siege, will live on in all of our hearts. And if Semper is still in the chat, I do apologize for completely thrashing him with Triple Siege that one time, right? I had a perfect hand, in fairness. And in 99 other games, it probably wouldn't have gone that way. But I was blessed with the power of the Triple Siege. So, anyways, I'm sure if BJ was here, he'd also have a comment on it. But I'm gonna miss it. So yeah, that's about it. Rip Triple Siege.
I think the salt reserves were increased a lot during the Triple Siege period.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Weevil. That was a really nice list of commandments related to Triple Siege that is no longer with us, luckily. TroVNut, it's now your time to shine and to sell out.
Okay, shameless plug. You can find me on YouTube. That's at youtube.com/TroVNut plays. That's TroVNut. The V is because my name is Vincent, which was also why I selected the card for this thumbnail, because we share the same first name. If you're wondering why the name is so hard to pronounce, so that's TroVNut. And I do regular videos every week. Usually the schedule right now is an XCOM 2 video where we're doing the Valkyrie challenge, which is a self-imposed challenge where I only deploy female soldiers. And every time I get a male soldier, I say, get the fuck out. And I just dismiss him immediately. And that's going on strong, and that's 2 episodes every week, so on Tuesday and on Friday. And then on Thursdays, I'm doing Fallout 4 Survival. And then Saturday is usually Preserved for Gwent, which is today replaced with the podcast of today. And then on Sundays, we're doing Group Therapy, which we talked about before, is the series where me and 2 of my friends play horror games, where you can see us scream and shout about basically everything. But right now, basically Mr. X and Resident Evil 2. So if you like any of that, you can check out my channel. Come say hi. We can talk about anything you want, as long as it's game related.
Thanks, man. Hesser.
All right, I didn't really want to advertise my own stream, but I didn't, stream a lot recently. But, if you want to come up to the Hesser stream, or AKA Hesser Whorehouse, as Weisenberg calls it, you are really welcome. We are just having fun with Gwent, some other games sometimes. I think I'm going to, move into more variety streaming in the nearest future. So as long as I have time, I'll be there for you. And whenever you just want to have some fun and talk about anything, come on. I'll be waiting.
Okay, thanks guys. I'm not gonna advertise my own stream because you guys are already here, so I'm gonna use this opportunity to remind you that if you wanna stay in touch also off stream, you can follow us at Novigrad Podcast on Twitter. And that this episode is gonna be uploaded onto YouTube, Spotify, and a couple of other platforms in the next couple of hours. With that being said, Weevil TroVNut. I keep saying TroVNut, and it's TroVNut.
Not a problem. I chose that name, and it's gonna stick with me.
And Hesser, thank you guys for being here. Really, really appreciate it. I think it's by far the longest episode we've ever done. And I really hope to have you guys on this show again in the future.
Definitely.
And
Thank you for having us.
to our viewers, if you are not aware, this is the last episode of Season 2 of Merchants of Novigrad. We are not going anywhere. Season 3 is going to start in the near future, probably a couple of weeks, maybe a bit longer. We are already talking to a couple of people regarding their possible appearance on the podcast. But for now, it is all. I would like to remind you that the Cards for Humanity event is going to start in about 2 hours. It is organized by Mark Theus, and it's gonna be casted by Macbeard and Flake. So I highly encourage you to check it out. And if you have some spares to donate towards the noble goal of helping communities in need during the time of crisis. So once again, everyone, thanks for being here. Chat, thanks for interacting with us today. Thanks for talking to us and listening to the podcast. We'll see you guys later. We are obviously going to rate somebody in a couple of minutes, but that's up to our guests. So once again, thanks for being here. We'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.